Interesting. I was on a Draxia and Zinc and a Z-Pack about a year ago now.
I had the Z-Pack. They also did steroids.
Basically,
I had COVID in January, and I didn't have any symptoms other than being tired. And my wife and I had our second vaccine shot 2 weeks ago. It kicked us into you know what. We were down for 24 hours. Man, it was unbelievable. But
I'm going for the vaccine shot tomorrow.
Number 1 or number 2?
Number 1, the first one.
Good luck.
guys, we're live now.
Okay, thank you. But there's nobody here.
I texted my country and I called him and left him a message.
Okay. So far, it's just me and Mayor, and I think we're gonna get a raise because we're the only ones on.
What about me and Jerry and Terry?
No. You don't count. It's me and Mayor.
Okay.
All right. By the way, Jerry and Terry, did you know tomorrow's 35 years since Franny sits in that chair?
But she's only 39. How could that possibly be right?
Oh.
Years old when I started here.
But let me tell you, she wasn't as bad at looking then than she is today.
Oh.
Mr. Chairman, you should have seen
That's
Fran.
what this does to you.
Should have seen Fran as an applicant in Jackson. She was
Oh, that was so scary, Adam.
Okay. Oh, I got my Shinko on.
Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Hello?
Who's that? Yes. Who's saying hello?
I'm trying to get into the meeting.
Who are you?
What's for you? It's for you.
Orally. Well, you're in the meeting. I hear you. Just put yourself on mute.
I'm not hearing you too clearly, so what do I do?
I don't know. I have no idea. Are you on a phone?
Your application, Mrs. Lee, that you're concerned with will be second or third on the list, so you have time. Take your time.
No, it's Chevy German. It's the next one.
Well,
Turin Avenue. It's the first one on.
I would assume this phone number, could that be Morty Gross?
No, that's not Morty Gross.
No?
That might be Mrs. Leeds. I don't know.
Yes, that's the only number that's there. It could be.
Yes.
I thought I saw more.
Okay, I see my Shingba.
You do?
Yeah, my Shingba's on.
Hi, Fran. It's Mike.
Myers, can you just do us all a favor? Can you put your phone on canceling out the outside noise so we don't hear you driving?
Yes, can I do the what?
Put the program on reduce canceling outside noise so we don't have to hear you driving.
I can mute it? I'll mute it.
No, there's a thing called canceling reduce noise, reduce outside noise. Go to options.
Let me find it. Hold on.
Stuff on mute.
It's in the settings?
It's in the settings.
Drive carefully.
Go to audio.
Hold on, audio.
Speaker and microphone settings.
Audio only mode.
That's fine. So there should be in there under speaker and microphone mode, there should be a switch called remove background noise.
All right, let me see here. Find device here. Chat I don't know.
All right. You don't have it, you don't have it.
Oh, change audio connection.
No. Not yet. Try it, but not shouldn't be a connection. It should be cancel outside noise or reduce outside noise. You turned off your video, Mike.
Audio only mode.
Anyone else?
Still need Riviat and Mike Lankley and Morty Gross. And Naftali.
No one's coming on. Franny, you want to call Morty Gross? See where he is?
Hi, Abe. Yankee Right Shake, who's one of the more veteran chaplains here in California for, I think, almost 20 years, was telling me on Shabbos that what's going on with Labiyut. I'm hearing some problems. And he says, oh, no, I'm not looking forward to Pesach. So I said, Yankee, I don't know what the problem is.
This is a public zoning meeting. And somebody's running a private conversation.
I'm listening to my office message from California.
Oh.
Morty, are you on? And we're waiting for you. Thanks. Bye. All right, Morty's trying to get on.
Okay, that gives us 4.
We need Naftali
Naftali is going to be on late.
and Riviat. Want me to call Riviat?
No, give Riviat a few minutes. He told me right away he's going to be late. Okay?
And Naftali said he was going to be late. And Mike Lankley. I called his cell. I texted him.
Let's see. Anyone else popped up? Who's 347? Last 2 digits, 28.
I'm going to try Mike Lankley at home.
Jacob Miller.
I don't know who that is. We need one more.
Nobody answers Mike Lankley home.
Morty's on.
Morty's on. I see you. Morty, I see that you're on. Whose phone number ends with 73? Is that anyone from the board members?
No, that's somebody that can't get on.
732, I believe, is Ms. Leeds.
There's 2 732s. There's one ending in 84 and one ending in 73. Let me send Mike Lankley a text message.
Abe, I tried all three numbers I have for Mush.
And I'm sending him a text message now as well.
Did that too.
Okay?
Nobody even
So-
answers at the store. Oh, let me try the store.
I'm gonna send him a text message. What's his name? Judah Ribiat.
Hey, were you able to hear me?
Yes, I
Yeah.
can.
Great. I'm muting myself now.
Okay.
Fran, this is Rich Schneider. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes, I can.
thank you.
Hello, Rich. It's been a while. Nice to see you.
Very good. Thank you.
Abe, I even called the store for Mush language. The only one I didn't speak to today.
All right, let me call. It's 10 after. Let me call. What's his name?
Naftali.
Naftali. Naftali's not answering his phone.
Want me to try the home number for Naftali?
He told me he's gonna be stuck somewhere for at least 10 after 7.
Hey, are there any applications that we can take that don't need full quorum?
We can do the correspondence. I have correspondence and Tesla.
No, they all need a full board.
I don't even have 5 yet. We don't have really.
You can have 5, right?
We can do 41. Oh, you can't even do that.
No.
Well, I have correspondence if you want me to tell you what's not on tonight.
Wait a minute.
Want to hear it? Just pretend it's the Trump puts it over. No, my video. My video should be shown.
No one's picking up.
Good morning in the morning, right?
Hi, this is Abraham Naftali. Please leave.
Please leave your message for 7.
Abe, at this point, I think it's personal.
I'm getting the feeling.
Please leave your message.
Mike Lankley's phone is off. Let's go straight to voicemail.
On
Maybe
Saturday
that's me.
night, he told me he's going to be there.
You spoke to Marsh Langley, Morty?
On Saturday night, I asked him by the pizza shop, and he said he's going to be there.
Okay. I just texted him. We called him. We left messages.
So did I.
And I just sent him an email.
Maybe you should send the messenger.
I called the pizza place. He wasn't there. Nobody answered.
Call his wife.
I tried that. I called the house. Maybe he has another home number. Let me see.
Is Naftali sign up or Judah? All I need is Naftali and Judah. Let me call Judah. He's not answering my text message. I'm going to call him.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm in my room. I just gotta get hooked up to the internet. Once I get hooked up, I'm ready to go.
Okay, because we can't start the meeting because I only have 4 members.
Okay. Who's this?
Naftali is not on, and Moshe Lankley is not on,
Phone.
and you're not on. So I'm down to 4 members.
I'm gonna try right now.
Thank you. Bye.
Want me to try Naftali again on his cell?
I just tried him.
Okay.
He told me he's going to be late. He told me he's going to be, let me see, what did he say he's going to be?
Told me 10 minutes.
Now?
No, not now, no.
No, in the morning. He told me 7:10 he'll be. I don't know where he is.
Could I call Hal Halverson?
And Obi.
No, Obi, we can't call, but Hal still lives here. Let's call him.
We didn't accept his resignation.
Should I try?
There you go. Oh, Avanam is calling me back. Hold on. Hello? Hello?
I'm trying to log in.
What's your issue?
I think it's finally going through. I don't know, the computer logged or closed. I don't know what the issue is.
Okay.
It just went in right now, I think.
Okay, good. So we got 5. So we can at least open the meeting, and then I'm going to have Judah log in. Okay?
Okay, good.
Okay, Avraham, I see you. You're there.
I'm here.
I see. Oops. Where are you?
Hi, this is Abraham Naftali.
Okay. All right, let's take a look what we got here. Do I see Avram Naftali on?
Don't see
Avram,
him.
are you there? Please announce yourself.
There we
Oh,
go.
there you are.
Here.
Shalom Uvracha.
1, 2, 3.
We got 5.
That's correct, Chairman.
Yeah, we got 5. And Judah's going to log in a minute, and we'll have 6. All right, Jerry, we're ready to roll. Okay. All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and whoever's listening in on tonight's meeting. Tonight's meeting has been advertised according to New Jersey State Sunshine Law. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli. Mr. Gelli, I know he.
Mr. Gelli, you're on mute.
Gelli.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Mr. Langley, Mr. Naftali,
Here.
Mr. Vivian. Did he log in yet?
Judah didn't log in yet. Judah logged in. Judah, you're on mute.
I
You want to log on. Please announce yourself. Hold on one second.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for
Judah's in.
joining.
Okay, Judah's in.
Moshe Ingber is
Mike,
here
Here,
too.
here, I'm here.
And Miss Morty Gross is here on somewhere.
Mostly.
Okay. And Mr. Halberstam.
yes, here. I'd like to ask everyone to rise and salute to the flag. Morty, can you lead us to salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
To the flag of the United
United
States of
States of
America
America,
and to the republic which should stand
And one nation.
nation
under God
under God, indivisible, with liberty
with liberty and
and
justice.
justice
Justice
for
for
all.
all.
Thank you.
I didn't stand there, just letting you know, because I'm driving.
All right, just don't get a speeding ticket. I have a couple of attorneys online now that will be able to take care of you. One way or the other. Right, Jerry?
Yes.
Yeah, you'll take care of Morty if he gets a speeding ticket? Okay. Madam Secretary, can I have an approval for minutes for the February 1st meeting?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve it. Can I have a second to approve the minutes for February 1st meeting?
Can you tell me who made that motion?
Mayor Gelli.
Second,
Who was the second?
Judah.
Judah?
Judah.
You'll have to identify yourself when you make a motion because it's really going to be hard to figure out who's who.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gilly, Mr. Naftali, Ribbiat,
Yes.
Ingber, Mr. Gross, and Mr. Halberstam.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Madam Secretary, do we have any correspondence? I see a correspondence for this tonight's meeting on 4144.
I have a letter from Adam Becker, appeal number 4158, that's 1364 River LLC. The applicant received,
That one down there. Okay.
the applicant received some comments from neighbors and they would like the opportunity to review them and possibly revise the plans, and requesting that this matter be carried to the April meeting with no additional notices.
With a waiver of time?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. This is the first time that we carried that they're on the calendar?
First time we're on the calendar. I don't even know if we'd reach this application either way. But we'd like to come in with the best application possible, and we will meet with the neighbors to revise accordingly.
Okay, fine. I have no problem. Does anyone have any issues with it?
No.
No? Seeing none, Madam Secretary, can I have a motion? Can I have a motion to carry? When is it? April 1? When is the next meeting?
April 12th. The
April
meeting is
12th,
April
4/12? 4/12?
Motion.
Announce yourself. Who made that motion?
Okay, Morty will make a motion.
Morty make a motion to carry. Can I have a second?
Here will second.
Second by Judah. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli,
Yes.
Naftali,
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat,
Yes.
Mr. Ingber,
Yes.
Gross, and Mr. Halberstam.
Just an announcement, whoever is on this conference tonight, appeal number 4158 will be heard on April 12th on the same Zoom meeting.
Right. Also,
Okay.
No
appeal
additional
number
notices.
417,
Additional notice or the waiver of time, yes.
Thank you so much.
appeal number 4174, that's the last one on the agenda. That's Jacob Murmelstein. They did not advertise. They will not get heard tonight.
Okay, so there's nothing to be announced on that one, because he didn't advertise properly, so it's not at all.
They didn't advertise at all.
Fine. Any other correspondence?
No, the only thing we have is the appeal number 4144, that's Ari Tesla, which, on our correspondence, they want to remove the restriction of external entrance.
Let me take this. We adopted a resolution 4144 granting the original approval back in March of 2020. At the time, the applicant.
Hold on one second, Jerry, Jerry. Can I make an announcement here? Whoever is on this call, please mute yourself because we hear all the background noise if you're not on for this application. Number two, whoever is on this call and is not being heard now on their application, please remove yourself because you're taking up some bandwidth and it's going to be very hard for us to conduct the proper meeting and log back on when it's your turn. Thank you. Go ahead, Jerry.
Thank you, Jimmy. We approved this application in March of last year, actually February of last year, memorialized in March. And it was a single-family home according to the approvals. The applicant at that time offered that although you have a basement, there would not be any outside entrance and there would be no separate living quarters. We received a letter on his behalf dated January 29 from his engineer and lines, asking that for safety reasons, fire reasons, he wants an outside entrance to the basement, but it stipulates that it will not be used for anything but his family. There will be no outside rental or anything like that. So if that's okay with the board, I'll need a motion. I'll prepare an amended resolution. Chairman, I can't hear you.
You're muted.
I got it. Perhaps do we know what the side yard setback is? Maybe that's why we told them as well not to put a side door. Did we give him a relief on the side yard setback?
Hold on, sir. Just a moment, I'm looking for Terry's letter.
Okay.
Chairman, there was a reason why we didn't.
What do you say, Mayor?
There was a reason why we didn't have a.
The setback variances granted were both for front yard setbacks.
How much was it?
Sorry?
What was the side yard setback variance that we granted him?
The front yard setback off of J. Scott Court, 23.05 feet proposed, 30 required, and the front setback off of East Kennedy, 22.63 feet proposed, 25 required. It's a corner lot, obviously. There was not an issue about side yard setbacks that complied.
Okay. Let me turn to Terry. Terry, do you remember anything about this? Why did we tell him no basement, no side door? We normally don't do that. What was the reason?
He offered that, Chairman. That was his.
That was his offer?
Yeah.
Yeah, but why did he offer?
Miss Chair, to the chair, Mike Shingbar.
Yes,
I remember
Mike.
some application where it looked like there was going to be 2 apartments in a basement, and there was going to be like, maybe a mother-daughter. I remember vaguely, I hope I'm not confusing the application, and that they promised that it wasn't, and they said that they were going to take out an entrance to appease us that it's really not going to be 2. So I'm uncomfortable changing it without seeing a plan or we made that decision then, and I don't see why it should change now. Unless we see an amended plan or...
To refresh our memory on it.
The board obviously went through it and decided at that time it was appropriate.
Go ahead, Mayor Gelli.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, yes.
Mr. Chairman, without seeing the plans right now, I feel the same way. At best, we can make steps with the flapping doors. The trap doors.
Yeah, whatever they're called, bulkhead doors, right? Or why don't we not do anything with it and tell them to submit a file on it so that we can refresh our memory, not just the correspondence. Let's see a copy of the plan. Let's see a copy of the minutes and the resolution and come and revisit this on April 12th.
Agreed.
I agree, Mr. Chairman.
Okay?
I agree as well.
Okay. Jerry, are you okay with that?
Yes, sir, but let's make a motion to carry it, and Fran will get in touch with them.
Yeah, we can leave it on correspondence, but we'll do it on correspondence just that fellow board members should be able to refresh their memory, not just do it on a piece of paper, which Franny is reading or Jerry are reading.
Fran, we should have someone on behalf of the applicant here next month in case we have any questions about it.
Okay.
Okay, we'll leave it on correspondence. Okay?
Yes.
Okay. Can I have a motion to that effect?
Make a motion. Mayor Gelli, make a
motion for Mayor Gelli. Can I have a second?
Second. Judah
Ribbiat, second. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli?
Yes.
Mr. Naftali?
Yes.
Ribbiat? Mr.
Yes.
Inger? Mr. Gross?
Yes.
And Mr. Halberstam.
Yes. Okay. So whoever's listening in for Ari Tesler, please note, you heard what our comments. Please supply us with the proper information. Moving forward, we're gonna go to a new business, appeal number 4167, Jeffrey German. Who's here on behalf of Jeffrey German? I see Jeffrey German right up there. You're on mute. Jeffrey, you're on mute. Unmute yourself. You're still on mute.
Appeal number 4167, Jeffrey German, Current Avenue, Block 10.
Sean,
Lot
get in there.
7, B3,
What?
to construct a single-family home on an undisputed lot. I have some.
Yeah, get in there. Unmute. Come on, hurry up.
Can you hear me now?
Jeff, you're off mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, you can. Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you.
The applicant is seeking to construct a single-family dwelling on an undersized lot requiring both variances. Single-family detached housing is a permitted use in the B3 zone. The applicant is new for the construction of a single-family dwelling on a single isolated lot.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
Go ahead.
Perhaps you want to swear in Mr. Stevens, my engineer and planner also?
Sure. Whoever's going to testify, gentlemen, raise your right hand, then you can identify yourself. Mr. Stevens, I see. Is there another gentleman, another person?
Just Jeff.
Okay, Mr. Stevens, do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, let's go. Okay, your application.
Yes, so good evening, board members, Mr. Dasty and Ms. Siegel. I'm Jeff German. I am the owner and the applicant in this matter. There are a few exhibits I'd like to be marked as evidence. I've submitted those already. The first being a variance plan. And perhaps we'll get Ms. Siegel a number for that exhibit, the first one.
That'll be A1. Can you identify the date on?
Okay, the second would be a copy of the house plan.
What's the date on the variance plan?
May 16th, 2020.
All right. And the house plans? That's A2.
The house plan, they're kind of generic plans. They're dated October 24th, 2019.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Chairman, the copy of the variance plan I have is dated May 18th. Just want to put that on the record.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. My digits are a little small and my glasses aren't the greatest. There is one third exhibit, and that's the affidavit that I've submitted to show that my lot is a single isolated lot. It's been that way since the original developer, and it has not been in common ownership with any adjoining property since way back when. That's a part of the proof of the hardship, and I would also like that marked as an exhibit.
That'll be A3, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Since this is an undersized lot, I have to show that I made the attempt to acquire additional property or to sell my property to an adjoining owner if they wish to buy it. I sent letters both via certified mail and regular mail, which I refer to and are referred to as the buy-sell letters. I sent these certified to each of the adjoining owners. There are only two adjoining owners. One, if you're looking at the site plan or the map, is to the rear, and or the north actually is the rear, and that is to a Chateau Grand LLC. Again, the buy-sell letter asks if they can sell me any property to mitigate my variance, or if they wish to buy my property. I received no response from Chateau Grand. As I say, they're in the back anyway and couldn't really given me much to obviate or mitigate the variances I'm seeking. The second letters were to the adjoiners to the east and the west, or to the left and the right of the lot. The owner of that property, of both of those properties, is the same owner, Lori Leeds. She owns, if you're looking at the site plan or the map, she owns lot 6 and lot 9. They're on each side of the property. I sent that buy-sell letter, which is, again, required to do. I sent it via certified and sent the white slips and received the signed copies from Lori Leeds that she received it. Received those letters. I received no response from Miss Leeds to those letters.
Mr. Chairman, did you submit those letters to the board? Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Did you submit those letters to the board?
Oh, certainly. I submitted the letters with a copy of the with the white certified mail slips.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
You're saying that lot 6 is owned by Lori Leeds? On the right side of yours?
Yes, it is.
And then you have that little strip over there. I believe it's lot 8, not lot 9. Who owns that little strip of approximately 25 feet?
Yeah, that's Lori Leeds, and I believe that has also been combined with lot 9. The tax map still shows it as lot 8 and 9. But yes, lot 9 now is what used to be lot 8 and lot 9.
Okay, so lot 8 doesn't exist. That little strip does not exist any longer.
Right, that was a 20-foot strip that was originally owned by the township. And that's now all lot 9 lot 8 and lot 9 are one and the same, all one piece of property.
Okay.
So board members, this is a variance for a typical isolated undersized lot. I have with me tonight Bill Stevens. He's my professional engineer and planner on this application. He's been sworn in, and Mr. Stevens, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Did your office prepare the site plan and the variance application?
We did, yes.
And have you viewed the site?
Hold on. Bill, were you sworn in?
Yes, he was.
Okay, thank you.
I was. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
I didn't remember.
So yes, we prepared the drawings, and yes, I did see the site.
Could you summarize for the board what the application is about, being its location, the zoning in the area, the utilities that are available, and the variances that are required?
I'd be happy to, Mr. Chairman. As you stated in your opening remarks, this is a case for an existing isolated undersized lot. The applicant here owns a 40-foot wide lot by 100-foot deep lot located along the northern side of Turin Avenue. It's several hundred feet east of Route 9. The property is in the B3 zone, and the B3 zone does permit single-family housing on a 7,500 square foot lot. So the applicant is asking for a variance to permit the construction of a single-family home on this existing isolated undersized lot, having an area of 4,000 square feet where 7,500 square feet is required. We are also seeking a variance. Sorry, hold on, I lost my place for a second there. For the minimum lot width, where 50 feet is required and 40 feet is being provided by the existing lot. And these are conditions the applicant can do nothing to change other than to purchase adjoining property.
Mr. Stevens, is there to be a basement?
Yes, the property is proposed to be a 2-story home with a basement.
And will the basement have an outside entrance?
The basement is proposed to have an outside entrance, but not a typical outside entrance. The entrance actually is inside the home, but it is a side entry on the side of the home.
So there'll be a separate living quarters for the basement?
Yes, that is what the proposal is.
What's the square footage? What's the footprint of the home?
So the house itself, the way it's proposed, is approximately 30 feet by about 50 feet.
Why could not the home have been made smaller so that you wouldn't have these setback issues, even though it's a 44,000 square foot lot?
So one of the things that we try to do whenever we look at the construction of homes for existing isolated undersized lots is to try to find a home that we could build that will fit into the character of the surrounding neighborhood. And when we look at the character of the surrounding neighborhood, we look at what's built there. And in this particular case, what surrounds this home is primarily duplex units, and they're fairly substantial in size. My analysis of the subject block and the block 1049 immediately across Torrent Avenue from the block is that the existing homes range in size anywhere from 2,935 square feet to 3,211 square feet. So the applicant's proposal to build this home at 3,100 square feet is in keeping with the neighborhood and meaning that it's neither the largest nor the smallest home in the neighborhood.
How big are the lots adjoining this lot?
So to build a duplex in this neighborhood, in the B3 zone, you need a 10,000 square foot lot. So they're 100 by 100. So those homes that I just mentioned, the 2,935 square feet to 3,211 square feet are built on 50 by 100 foot lots.
So
Those are duplexes.
Correct.
But the houses to the right and to the left of this property, are you saying they're 50 by 100?
So no, Mr. Dassey, what I'm trying to say is that the units that we're talking about are duplex units. So they're built on a 10,000 square foot lot. However, they are fee simple lots. So technically they're 50 by 100, even though the lot itself is for 2 units is 100 by 100.
I understand that. I'm asking you the size of the lots immediately adjoining this one to the right and left.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so the lots to the right and the left of this subject property are vacant. There is lot 6 is 80 feet by 100 feet deep, and lot 9, make sure I got that right. Lot 9 is 120 feet by 100 feet in depth. So there's 2 vacant lots adjoining the property, one of which, the lot 9, would be big enough to build a duplex. The lot on the other side, lot 6, would be undersized and will be another single-family home.
Thank you.
Yes, and Mr. Stevens, before we get ahead of ourselves, could we address the other variances required for this matter? We briefly just mentioned the side yard setbacks. Could you tell us what those side yard setbacks are and what we're proposing?
Yeah, so the minimum side yard setback requirement here for the single family home in the B3 zone is required to have 7 feet, and we're proposing that it be 5 feet. The combined side yard setback is 15 feet, and we're proposing it to be 10 feet.
And with regards to the lots on the side, you said that the one lot is 125 feet. So even though we're requiring that side yard variance, there's plenty of room for the one to the west side, if someone were to build there, that they could even leave more room if they wished. Is that correct?
That would be correct. That's going to be an oversized lot now that the additional lot's been added to it. It's 120 feet wide.
Right.
Mr. Stevens, you're also asking for rear yard setback and building coverage setback, right? Or building coverage variance. All right.
I have a question for Mr. Stevens. How wide are the single door duplex houses in the neighborhood? The actual building, the house itself. When you have a duplex in that Oakland area?
So my experience, Mr. Chairman, I would imagine they're at very least 30 feet wide, in most cases much more, probably more like 36 feet wide compared to the more modern duplexes my office is building.
That's not my question or your experience. My question is I want to know what is there now.
Oh, I can't say that I went out and measured them. I did not.
Okay.
I know, Mr. Chairman, that I spoke with Sam Rabinowitz, who's been involved in developing a lot of this stuff in this area. He said that many of the duplexes on the corner lots are 30 feet high.
He's not here to testify. If he's not here to testify, I don't want you to say give hearsay as to what he would say.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Stevens, you have any other testimony?
Yes, there's, Mr. Stevens, we have a few other things to go through. We are also requesting a variance for, I believe, the,
Rear yard lot.
maximum building, correct?
You want 39% coverage and the lot, the zoning allows 30%.
Right, and why do we need that? And is that a common thing, Mr. Stevens?
So again, the idea is that the lot itself is undersized. So what we're trying to do is to find a home that fits into the character of the neighborhood. And that's what we believe is necessary in order to make this particular home fit in with the character of the neighborhood. And in addition to that, the one thing we haven't talked about is the rear yard variance that's being requested. We're requesting a variance for 9.33 feet in the rear yard, where 15 feet is required. But it should be noted, the board should be aware that the house itself exceeds the rear yard variance. It's more than, or the rear yard setback, it's more than 19 feet from the property line. The rear yard setback is only for a deck. We're proposing a modest 10 by 12 deck on the back of this home, and that is what the variance is to, not to the home itself.
You mentioned that it's you're looking at the characteristics of the neighborhood. In my assumption, and from what you just testified, the characteristics of the neighborhood on a duplex, each duplex is 5,000 square feet. This is 4,000 square feet. The characteristics of the neighborhood is not to have a side yard setback as much as you're seeking. The characteristics of the neighborhood is not to have a rear yard setback like you're seeking. So in what aspect are you telling me it's the characteristics of the neighborhood? Is it cherry picking to fit your design and your style? Besides the width of the house? The lot is smaller, let's go according to your analogy that we're talking about a duplex, which is 50 or 60 wide, or whatever the property is. So your lot it's a 50 by 100, I think you said before, or something like that. So your lot is smaller, because this is a 40. Your side yard setback on one side of the duplex is at least 10 or 15 feet. You're at 5. Your rear yard setback on a regular house in the neighborhood is the standard rear yard that they're looking for. Where you're seeking 12. So in what aspect are we adhering to the characteristics of the neighborhood, besides the size of the house of 3,000 square feet?
Well, Mr. Stevens, I think that the 7 foot, it's a 7 foot side yard setback, and we're seeking 5, and we realize that's a bit under. Of course, in light of last month's and the month before meeting, we understand that the board is certainly would rather have a 6 foot side yard setback there, so we're agreeable to that. And that's one way to mitigate the 7 foot side yard down to the 6, where we're just asking for a 6 foot. And with the 6 foot, Mr. Stevens, you think there would be any violation of the principles of light, air, or open space regarding that side yard setback of 6 feet, where 7 foot is required?
The perception of a foot side yard setback from the street is really negligible. No, I don't believe that you would see it. I'm really not even sure that you would see the 2 foot that we're requesting, but if the applicant is willing to reduce the size of the house to provide the side yard setback of 6 feet, it certainly would lessen the variance that's being requested.
Terry, what's the side yard setback required in this neighborhood on this piece?
Chairman, for our review, the side yard setbacks are 7 foot per and 15 aggregate.
7 foot per and 15 aggregate.
Correct.
That's 7.5 and 7.5.
7 for a minimum one side, aggregate minimum 15 feet.
Correct. So it's 7 and 8, or 7.5 and 7.5.
Correct.
So what you're telling me now is that you're willing to go down to a 6 foot on both sides. So now we're just short a 1.5 feet. Okay.
Well, not exactly. We're willing to go down to the 6 foot on the one side, and we'd like to leave it 5 feet on the other.
Okay, we're gonna get to that in a minute, because I need to look at my plans, what we have on that side. We'll get to that in a moment. Let me ask you another question, Bill. I'm back to you, Bill. What's with my front driveway over there? How are we gonna split in the 4 cars required?
So knowing that this board does want 4 parking spaces, we do show them across the front of the property. Now, of course, with this lot being only 40 feet wide, the 4 parking stalls take up 36 feet. So there's only 4 feet left besides the driveway.
So you're telling me that we're gonna have a nice tennis court there? There won't be any room for any grass or gardening or anything in front of a house? It's all gonna be blacktop? Is that what you're telling me?
In front of the house, there will be some room for landscaping. When we look at the width of the lot, it'll predominantly will be the driveway with 2 feet on either side of the driveway.
If I would be you, that 2 feet ain't doing diddly squat. You might as well just cover the whole thing with blacktop. And that brings me to my next question, how it's gonna look, and I'll leave that to the fellow board members.
Just ask a couple of questions.
One second, Jerry. I know that under the code and under statute, we have to allow you to build something over here. I'm just trying to think of the proper size house on a small 4,000 square foot lot. Is this size house of 30 feet wide on 40 feet width the proper size? You know, I'm gonna leave that, throw that out to my fellow board members and see what they say. In reference to the 5 foot on one side, I don't have a basement plan here. So I don't know if there's gonna be any window wells or any doors on both sides of this property.
With the chair, did you get architecturals for this, or did we?
Yes, I'm holding architecturals right here. But I don't have is a basement plan.
Mr. Chairman, I believe I did send in or Mr. Stevens sent in the basement plan. There were some window wells for the basement, but again, in light of what was discussed last month and the month before, we've been able to eliminate those window wells on the 6 foot side, on the east side, where we're going to increase the side yard to 6 feet, so that there are no window wells there, so that there's a better egress and ingress. And then on the other side, we're eliminating the window wells which lead up to where the door is, the entranceway for the basement.
So Jeff, are you saying that there are no window wells at all on both sides of the house?
No, sir. There are window wells only on the west side, but that's beyond the entranceway for the house. And we could actually, and so there's 2 window wells there. We could even eliminate those because one's in a playroom. It doesn't require it, but you know, we just think that it's better to have a window well there just in case, you never know. And
so what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for fire safety in the bedrooms down there when each bedroom has to have an egress window?
We're going to have it. We're going to move the ingress and egress to the rear of the bedroom, and just instead of the side. So instead of on the side of the bedroom, it's going to be to the rear.
Okay, I don't have a basement plan here, but I hope you're not telling me you're gonna put it to the rear underneath the wooden deck.
No, we have the 1 bedroom where the 6 foot is, that will not be under the deck.
Okay, so there's 1 bedroom. Where's the other bedroom gonna be?
The other bedroom is to the rear left, and that will have a window well to the rear west side. That's where only the 5 foot side yard is.
Okay.
What's under the deck?
No, it's not. He's saying on the west side, not on the north side, not on the south side, on the west side.
Yeah, the deck is on the west side back there. So the window well will be in the side yard variance. But again, that's not going to interfere with coming and going into the house because the entranceway is well forward up there.
Okay, and where are you gonna put my air conditioners?
Mr. Stevens, if you look at the plan, I think, could you describe where those are? It looks like
Yes.
in the middle of the lot.
They're located behind the house in the rear yard.
Okay,
We once had that before. We could.
yeah. I mean, let's put it this way. I think the house is a little bit too big for this size lot, my personal opinion, but I'll leave it up to fellow board members.
And Mr. Chairman, again, it's not going to be a 30-foot wide house now. We're going to knock that down to 29. And our architect, the fellow who's buying it from me, his architect, he looked at different plans and tried to get this down to a 28-foot, which was what was passed on a similar lot last month. But you couldn't really do it because the difference is that this lot is only 100 feet deep. That other lot was well in excess of that, like 175 feet. So he could make his house much deeper. But we're unable to do that unless we violate the rear setback even more. So I mean, anything's possible, but it really would become an untenable house and a really an extremely difficult house plan to make it any narrower than 29 feet. And
But you realize that your lot is a very narrow lot.
Certainly.
So sometimes you got to give what you got. You know, you got to give and take a little bit.
Right, and again, if you look at the plans again, if you look at the map, the lot to the west with the 5-foot side yard setback is an extremely big lot. Not only can they do a duplex there, but they could leave a lot of space between the duplex and between this house. So that was one of the considerations. And then on the right side where we're proposing the 6-foot setback, that lot is only that's zoned or only for a single family now, unless they got a variance for a duplex. So they also have plenty of room. So it's not as if they're squished in between two other duplex units. So that's one of the things we took into consideration in designing the house. And obviously, it's a narrow lot, so we know you have to have some give and take. But as I say, we're more than meeting the rear setback for the house.
I would say more than meeting.
Well, if just for the house, without excluding the deck,
Okay.
we more than meet it. The deck doesn't, it's off by, I think, 5.5 feet or so. And the only way to minimize that or to mitigate that would, I guess, we could make the deck a foot shorter and a foot wider, if that would be helpful.
Mr. Chairman, can I say a couple of things here?
I just want to have one question. How wide is lot 6 next door to this? When you're saying it's the next door lot can be a small undersized lot.
80 by 100.
80 feet by 100.
80 by 100.
Yes.
Okay, Jerry, you can go ahead, Jerry.
I think we're all aware of a case that Ed Serpentelli wrote about 30 years ago called Dalmeyer versus Lacey.
Correct.
And that was a 40-foot lot. But the proofs provided to the zoning board were much more than what we have here. My recollection is there were elevations, there were architecturals. Now, I think Mr. Stevens testified earlier, this is a plan he submitted as sort of a common plan. He didn't even say it was the real plan, but that would be the plan for the house. And now Mr. German is saying, well, we'll make the house smaller. That's number one. It seems to me that, as I think the chairman was alluding to, when you're asking for these variances, sometimes they're allowed, but you have to do as much as you can to meet the other requirements. Now, we all know that in Lakewood, in this section, single-family homes are allowed to have independent basements as a permitted use, but that presumes that it's a regular-sized lot, not that it's so.
Correct.
So those are the comments I wanted to make, and just for the record, there are 3 letters of objection that were submitted to the Siegel, which I just want to reference for the record, and then Mr. German or Mr. Stevens can continue if they wish. One I'm going to mark as 01 is a letter from Morris Salomon, Salamon, dated 1/28, which includes signatures on the petition of protest of people within 200 feet of this property. The second that we're going to label as A2 is a letter from Laurie, L-A-U-R-I-E, Leeds, L-E-E-D-S, dated 1/26/21. Mr. German testified that she is the adjoining property owner on both sides. And the third is, again, for Ms. Leeds, again dated January 26, that's 03. So those are going to be entered into the record.
Okay, I just wanted to bring to your attention, Jeff, that before you continue, you mentioned that the adjoining property is 80 by 100. Okay, I have one question. When whoever owns that house, I believe it's Lori Leeds, will sell this property, you know how many duplexes you can put in there in Lakewood? It's 80 by 100. You can put in one duplex in there. So I don't see that as an undersized lot the way you're telling me.
Okay, then I'm just saying, I thought that the zoning for a duplex required 10,000 square feet, maybe not.
Yeah, but just like I'm giving you just like you're seeking now a single family house on 4,000 doesn't mean that somebody else is not going to come in and seek a duplex on 8,000.
Right, correct. They would have to.
I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
And Mr. Desi, you mentioned the plans were not submitted, but those are the actual plans that are going to be built. And the only difference is now is that they're going to be not squashed, but shortened by 1 foot. So instead of a 30-foot wide house, it's now going to be that exact house, but a 29-foot house. And those plans that were submitted to the board are the plans that are going to be built or proposed to be built if should the variance be granted.
I didn't understand Mr. Stevens' testimony to be that. Mr. Stevens, you can clear it up. I thought you said that these are standard plans that you submit. Are these the plans of the house that's going to get built?
Yeah, yes, they are, Mr. Dess. That was some testimony Mr. German gave. It wasn't my testimony. I don't recall exactly what he said, but you are correct. It was something along those lines.
So which lines? These are the plans?
Yes,
these are the plans. Yes.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, the buyer has supplied me with these plans, and Jacob Lipschitz, and he's going to be building this house, as I say. And then when, in light of last month's meeting and the month before, with the house being reduced on that 39-foot wide lot to being reduced a foot, he agreed to do that, and he consulted with his architecture, and he's had plans drawn up since that are the same, but 1 foot 1 foot less wide. So he's got now the same house with a 29-foot wide footprint.
What's going to be in the basement besides one apartment?
You mean the layout of the house is going to be a two-bedroom basement unit.
And what else?
Well, with a kitchen, a dining room, living room.
No, I understand what you're saying. A 2-bedroom basement, just an apartment, or something else besides that.
I don't quite understand something else besides that, but just a 2-bedroom apartment, if that's what you're asking.
1 2-bedroom apartment?
That's what he proposed to build. That's what, I don't know why he wants exactly that, but I don't quite understand the question. You mean, why more bedrooms, or why not less, or I don't know. That's his plan.
I don't have a basic plan. I can't see what it is.
I was bothered by the same thing, that it's a 1,500 foot footprint, and there's just a 2-bedroom apartment down there.
Possible.
Yeah, he could keep the second half. He keep the second half for himself, for the kids and family, for the house.
I think he doesn't have a choice, because if they're only doing window wells in the back, then you can only get 2 bedrooms along the back wall, and he can't put side bedrooms. I'm assuming that's the reason.
So would that restrict him from making bedrooms for his own family in the front part of the house?
No.
I'm assuming not.
He just needs to have a legal window well.
He doesn't have to use it as a bedroom. He can use that storage. He can use it as a pastry kitchen.
Actually, it would restrict him from doing any more bedrooms, because otherwise he'd have to eliminate the kitchen. The only place with a wheel well, with a window well, is in the front where the kitchen is proposed. So, and they're not going to change that kitchen kitchen to a bedroom. And I can represent, then we can have a condition of approval that this will be limited to the 2 bedrooms. We have no objection to that. I'm sure Mr. Lipschitz, when he gave me this plan, said this is what he wants to build. I'm sure he's fine with that.
To the chair, can I just
Yes.
make a comment? It was mentioned before that these are not the real plans, like Jerry Dasty said, and these are just. And we don't have any plans for the basement. We have no idea how the windows are going to work, the back doors are going to work, the layout of the basement. If we really need to see that before we can approve something like that. It's very tight. There's a lot of variances. It doesn't make sense for, at least for me, to vote on this, yay or nay, without seeing a full plan of the basement, how it's going to look.
I understand that, and I'm sorry, I thought for sure that the basement plans were sent in to the board, and they should have had them. If not, I agree, we should, we can certainly carry this, and we'll submit the revised plans that Mr. Lipschitz has shown me, and you'll see exactly what's going to be built for the 29-foot house, which is, again, a foot shorter than this house. And you'll be able to see the basement plans also. But so, I mean, if you wanted to do that, I have no objection to that.
I want to ask the guys out in the front what you guys think about the fact that there's no front lawn over here. It's all asphalt.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
The chair.
I just want to push back.
1 second, Joe. Morty, 1 second. Just for the record, Morty Gross is speaking now. Morty, go ahead.
I just want to push back a drop against what Mayor Gelli was just saying. He doesn't have to submit plans for a basement. He could build a basement at a later date. It's not like, I mean, we're looking like there's some grand conspiracy over here, and the fact that the basement plans are not complete. Most houses, from what I understand, they can build it with an unfinished basement and build a basement at a later date. So
Morty,
why are we forcing it to stipulate as to 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
One second. Give me a second. Morty, I'll tell you very simple why. Because he's asking a lot of variances, and we want to really see what's going on. And when somebody's not asking so many variances, he can do whatever he wants later on. When he's asking for a 30 to 29-foot wide house with 5-foot setbacks, 6-foot setbacks, I think Mayor Gelli is actually correct. He wants to see what the basement is all about. Judah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say also in regard to what Mr. Gelli is saying, I agree with him. This is a very, very tough fit, and there's questions that I have just in listening to the to the testimony here regarding where the air conditioning is going to be, where the deck is going to be, where the window was, how everything's going to lay out, and I want to see a real visual. I really do, and it's not a matter of whether people do this, submit an application without a basement or not. It's a question of voting on this to really understand what we're doing. In regard to the front that you were bringing up, Mr. Chairman, so I was just a few practical questions, and if you're going to go back and redo this plan, if you could somehow outline for us, like, for example, if somebody needs to make a delivery and kids are walking around, is there a sidewalk? Is there a walkway? Or is it just driveway? I kind of feel
anything.
Pardon me?
There's no room for any of that.
I kind of feel a little uncomfortable having something which is, just every time somebody walks out the front door, a kid runs out, there's a car pulling in. I think there has to be a designated area for kids to be able to walk. You want to take the garbage from the side of the house to the front of the house, and you're walking through cars. There really has to be something to promote a little bit more space for safety, in my view.
Yeah, again, I think if you look at the plan, you will see a concrete wall, a concrete walk in the front of the house between the house and the driveway. So that I believe it's on the plan. That's what I'm looking at anyway. It should be the plan that was submitted. Shows the concrete walk, and it shows it going up to the steps to the porch and along the whole frontage in front of the driveway. So you don't walk out and run right into the driveway and into the cars that'll be there.
Yeah, I have a question for Jerry, if I may. Jerry, early on they were talking about that a buyer's cell was presented to the lots nearby. Could you explain to me what that is and what the objective for that is?
Jerry, you're on mute.
Jerry,
You're
I'll
on mute.
mute.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. In order to support a hardship application, the applicant on an undersized lot like this has to demonstrate that he could do nothing else. That he offered this smaller lot to the adjoining property owners to avoid, a hardship, and that he offered to buy their lots to avoid a hardship. The testimony is, and I've not seen the letters, the testimony is that Mr. German has sent buy-sell letters to the adjoining properties, which I presume say, I'll be glad to buy yours, or do you want to buy mine? I don't know if there's any prices stated in there. I don't know what the letter said, but that's a normal letter that would, generally speaking, which would be sent by the variance applicant to show that the hardship does exist and anything else.
So is a price, when somebody sends such a letter, is it required that they make a specific offer? You buy my lot for X amount, or I'll buy yours for a certain amount, or they just say, we would like you to, take on the idea of perhaps we will buy your lot, or maybe you want to buy ours, and that's enough.
No, well,
That's not really too serious.
Yeah, I can't say that for a couple of reasons. Mr. German has submitted proofs here that he purchased this property for a total of $10,000 recently, or the predecessor, $10,000 to buy it from these other heirs. Now, I don't know. Sometimes the letters will say, you can buy my lot for X, or I will buy your lot for X, or else they might just say, call me so we can discuss this. Nobody calls. So sometimes they do indicate a price. Some they don't have to, but I'd have to see the letters, and I haven't seen them.
Yeah.
Can I cut short then? Jerry, if you haven't seen the letters, I think that we should revisit this next month, because what are we voting on? If you're not satisfied with the buy-sell letters, then we're gonna have an issue.
Mr. Halberstam, Mr. Dasty, if somebody has access, the letters seem to be online on our website. I tried to scan them, but I can't get them over to you.
Let me see if I can get it. Hold on a minute.
To the chair.
Who's speaking? Announce yourself.
Avram.
Who's speaking? Yes, Avram.
I think there's too many things already. The variances are a lot. We don't have the plans. I myself don't even have the architecture of the regular house. I don't know, they didn't even come in. But besides that,
Franny, 1 second, Franny.
The basements are not there. The letters are not produced. I think it's too many. We have to see a finished product. I think there's no point in talking too much.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Who's that?
Judah.
Yes, Judah.
Just one more question, because this was nagging at me as well. Jerry had alluded to it, that they recently bought this property for $10,000. Is that what I heard?
From the heirs. From
Proofs
the
that were
state.
submitted, yes.
Yes.
Is that correct, Mr. Chairman?
Is this something that the family has owned for a long, long time? Is there a history on it? Did they sell off any of these parcels to the neighbors? Do we have any history on this at all?
Well,
I could answer that if you want me to.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, but just the board should know that we've marked into evidence the affidavit submitted by Mr. German dated January 15, and it's provided by Mr. German. The stated purpose is to show that they didn't have a long history owning this property. He provided 2 recorded deeds, one from a Todd German to Jeffrey German for $100, and one from a Howard Roberts to Todd German for $1,500. And I think there's another one, Lawrence from Lawrence Roberts to Todd German for $2,600. So the proofs are that Todd German bought these lots, a total of about $5,000, and then sold the property to Mr. Jeffrey German for $100.
Yes, if I could comment on that, Mr. Dastia, I'm sure as you well know, the price that I paid for that property is completely and utterly irrelevant, and that I step into the shoes of the prior owner. The prior owners go back into the teens or 20s on this. It's been an isolated single family lot since then, and I step into their shoes. What I paid is not and what this cost me is not necessarily reflected at all on those deeds. There are back taxes. There are the problems in clearing up this title and everything else. But again, the price that shows on those deeds, or that what anybody says I voted for, is 100% irrelevant. It makes no difference in a variance case whatsoever. And Mr. Darcy, I'm sure you'll agree with that.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just reciting for the record what you sent in as evidence. That's what you sent in.
Well, the reason I sent that in as evidence was to show that this is an isolated, undersized lot, meaning that this was never the property was never in conformity, or was never owned with with the adjoining property. It was never owned at the same time, and that's the proof that you must show to be entitled to a hardship variance. It has nothing to do with the amount of money that I paid for it. That's just to set the title going back to the predecessor in title all the way back to the teens and 20s, to show that it's been an unbroken chain of ownership, and that the owner presently and in the past, none of the owners have ever owned adjoining property. And that's one of the requirements for a variance, for a showing of hardship.
Was that produced? Was evidence of that actually produced, that there was never a sale going back to the early 1900s?
Yes, it was. That's all set forth in the affidavit, setting forth the chain of title.
Yeah, that's correct.
And the other reason, the buy-sell letters, just to amplify those a little, the reason those are sent, and it's pretty well by statute now, the wording in these buy-sell letters is standard. And you don't say how much you're willing to sell the lot for. What you say is that you're willing to sell it at the price as if a variance were granted. That is set forth in the law. So it's uncontroverted that that's what you have to ask for, or what an adjoiner must pay is the value of the lot as if a variance were granted. Now, to buy from an adjoiner, the reason that you send that letter trying to buy is to get their feelings if they want to sell you anything. A certain price is not stated. They can say, they could say they want $100,000 for their 40-foot lot. And then it becomes a question of, you actually have to go out and get appraisals, both the adjoiner and myself. If they think that their lot, say they wanted to sell 40 feet and they wanted $100,000, then there's a whole process that you go through where you need an appraisal, and the adjoiner needs an appraisal. So that's the reason for the buy-sell letters. There's been no response. And since there's been no response, that's taken as if the adjoiner doesn't want to sell you any property. Otherwise, they would have responded. So that's the purpose of the buy-sell letters. There's no amount stated in there that you're willing to buy from them. That's not the standard, and that's not what the law set forward. And again, there's no offer to the adjoiner to sell your lot for a certain amount. The price that you're going to sell it to the adjoiner is what it would be worth as a building lot, as if the variance were granted. And that's just simply the way the law works with these variances.
Okay.
Let's make a comment to the chair.
Yes, Mayor Gelli, go ahead.
With the buyer and seller letter going backwards and forwards, and it didn't work out, and nothing was bought, nothing was sold, that doesn't automatically grant, or does it, a variance. That means to say, it'll grant you the right to be able to build a house of some sort. It doesn't automatically give the right to be 5 foot. It could be 26-foot wide house with 14 feet, 7 on each side.
That is correct.
Right, okay.
That is correct. Okay, but nevertheless, where do we stand now, gentlemen? We have here this piece. I heard Naftali say that he wants to see a full plan, a full program with the basement and everything else. I heard Mayor say that. Before I continue, Jeffrey German and Bill Stevens, are you guys done with your testimony?
Almost, Mr. Chairman. Just one thing, just to get an idea of the fact that we're seeking the rear setback for the deck. I don't know what the board's feeling is, and I said that, you know, maybe we could reduce that a little bit and widen it a little bit to have less of a rear yard setback. Is that something the board would want, or, you know, I think that from what Mr. Lipschitz said, that's a standard deck for a house like this, but I believe it's also possible to shorten it a bit and widen it if that's maybe in what the board might want.
Okay, so, okay. Bill, are you done with your testimony?
I think so, Mr. Chairman, at this point.
Okay, do you have any further witness, Jeff?
No, that's it for the witness. I will have a few more questions for Mr. Stevens next month, obviously.
Okay, so Jeff, okay. You heard what our concerns are. You heard what our discussion was and is. What do you want to do? You want to table it? You want to come back?
Yeah, we'll carry it until next month, and I'll get the plans from Mr. Lipschitz that will show the board exactly what's proposed to being built. And as I say, that's going to be the same as the plans you have, other than a foot narrower and the basement. I guess you don't have, but I will show you the basement and show you that there are no window wells on the east side. And it'll show you that it's only going to be a 2-bedroom apartment in the basement. And as I say, we can stipulate to that also that it won't be anything greater than that.
Could I just interject something? Jeff, you mentioned a few times about the 29-foot wide house, the 29-foot wide house, as if everybody's agreeing to a 29-foot wide house. I would not say that's the case with me, at least at all. So maybe the whole thing should be revamped: the width, the back, the sides, the variances, and also a clear diagram of the parking in the front, which the chairman mentioned is going to look like a parking lot, and also the exactly where the windows are in the basements.
Yes, I agree, sir. And the only thing is, though, maybe the board can discuss it with Mr. Stevens right now. If you're going to get, if the requirements are for 4 parking spots, I think how can you make the driveway any narrower unless the board's willing to grant a variance for 3 spots or 3.5 spots, but 3 spots instead of 4 spots, and that's something maybe you should discuss with Mr. Stevens right now, so we can know what plan the board would rather have than the driveway across the entire frontage.
Mr. Chairman, isn't it a fair question though of the board, and I think this is alluded to by the chairman, why would you're asking for, you know, a variance on a lot of variances on a 40-foot lot. Why can't you diminish your hardship requirements and forget about an independent basement? And you wouldn't need a blacktop front yard.
Exactly.
I have a few, Judy Rivera wants to say something, and Abraham Naftali wants to say something. So let me start with Judah first.
Yeah, just real quickly, when you come back, Mr. Stevens, one of the questions the chair asked you was regarding the neighborhood duplexes. Could you get some more information on that? Give us a little more insight so we can get a better idea of what to do over here.
Yes, Mr. Rivera, I will do that.
Abraham.
Aligns with what Mayor Kelly was saying. Not because we're making suggestions means we agree. Not because you're going to come up with a plan as a basement, it means that you're going to come back and say we did what the board said. It's not like that. There's too many variances in here, and I think that the whole plan needs to be revisited. Maybe built on a slab that there's no basement. Maybe, I don't know, that it needs to be some more creativity to diminish some of these variances, because we didn't even get to the point that we have a lot of objectives here also. So there's a lot of things going on in here. I think the whole plan needs to be revisited, and we'll be happy to see it again, but it has to be revisited, the whole plan. I don't feel comfortable to be held accountable that next month you'll come and say, I did what the board said, I gave you the plans, I must be approved.
No, I agree. That's not what we do. We're going to back another proposal, shrinking the house a bit and taking into consideration some of the things we talked about, and then we'll discuss that. But again, I don't know. Just to so we don't have to go through the deck in the rear. Does the board have a feeling of whether they would like that deck to remain like that, or which half of the deck, a little more than half, violates the setback? Or would the board like us to show that shrunk down a foot or so?
Mr. Chairman, just be
Check.
creative. We can't
Correct.
design it for you. Be creative and come up with the best plan with the best setbacks, but we can't design it for you.
Put your best foot forward and we'll decide later on. Okay? Okay, so for the record, you are tabling and you're carrying this application for April 12th
Yes, sir.
hearing?
Is there an agreement, Mr. Chairman, that you'll waive the time period in which the zoning board has to make the decision?
Certainly.
Okay. Madam Secretary, I'm sorry, can I have a motion?
Motion to postpone this application till the 12th.
Okay. I have a motion from Mayor Gelli to postpone it to the 12th of April. Can I have a second? Who's second that? Who's that?
Judah.
Second. Thank you. Judah second. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Yep,
Yes.
Mr. Naftali,
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat,
Yes.
Ingber,
Mr. Ingber?
Yes.
Dion?
Mr. Gross,
Yes, Mr. Ingber said yes.
Mr. Gross,
Yes.
Mr. Halberstam.
Yes. Okay, so for whoever's here, whoever's listening in on this application, 4167, Jeffrey German, that's gonna be postponed till April, it'll be further heard on April 12th. Take care. Moving it forward.
Thank you, board.
Take care, have a good night. Please turn off your Wi-Fi on it.
Mr. Chairman,
Moving forward, I have a question. We're going to appeal number 4169, Selco Partnership. Who's representing Selco Partnership?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Richard Schneider of the law firm of Vogel, Collins and Schneider on behalf of the applicant.
I have one quick question before we move forward, okay? The next application, 4170, Jacob Miller, I want to ask my fellow board members, that should be somewhat of a fairly quick application. Are you okay if we just grab that and come right back to you because you're going to be a little bit a while?
Absolutely. What I was going to ask, Mr. Chairman, certainly that's fine. My recollection from hearing the beginning of the meeting was you may have had only 6. I don't know if the 7th member is expected shortly or not, because we are a use variance, so we require 5 affirmative votes. I think, as you can appreciate, we would prefer a full complement if possible. We may decide to present, to make a transcript available, and that's other an alternative, but I was just trying to get a handle on whether the 7th member will be forthcoming tonight.
Okay, so I'm looking at my phone. And I don't see answering that he's coming or not. Franny, did Moshe Langkry answer you? Is he coming?
No, I hasn't answered at all.
May I?
Try again?
Excuse
Maybe
me?
what we can do is you can proceed with the matter that's behind us. That's only fair. He shouldn't have to wait behind us. But maybe in the meantime, somebody could reach out to see if the 7th member is forthcoming. Does that seem reasonable?
Were you just reading my mind?
I'm trying him now.
I was thinking about exactly like that. So we're going to move forward with the next application. Hopefully we'll find them and then you'll make a decision after this application if you want to be heard or not.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You got it. Okay,
Mr.
so we're going to
Chairman?
move forward. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, this is Adam Pfeffer. It also is on the application after the county line development number 4171. If Mr. Langkry, the 7th member, is not going to appear, I would also like to carry. I'll
Fine,
wait
so
to
let's
hear.
wait because Franny's
Yes.
trying to reach her. But meanwhile, let me start
Understood.
4170.
Thank you.
Jacob Miller. Is Jacob Miller on?
Right now, yes, right now, come on.
Oh,
One.
wait. Is Jacob Miller on?
1 minute, Moshe Langkry's gonna log in.
That's fine. Okay, Jacob Miller. If I see your name pop up, but you're on mute, so please unmute yourself.
I just unmuted myself.
Excuse me?
I just unmuted myself.
Okay, thank you. So, I would like to take your application next, okay? Madam Secretary, can you please read into the record 4170?
Can you just wait 1 second? I'm trying to email Moshe Langkry to get in. He said he just got home. He'll be getting on. Just email this to him.
Okay.
Okay, wait, where is this now? Okay, 4170 Jacob Miller, that's Guds Road, block 11.30, lot 13.01, R12 zone, to construct a single-family home requesting combined side yard setback variance of 20 feet where 25 feet is required.
Okay. Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Hi, can you talk to us a little bit what
Grant
you're
is
planning
also
on doing over
variance
here?
for a building coverage, 30% allowed, 34.5% proposed.
Is that it? I thought I saw something else here as well.
Those are
Side
the
yard,
two
side
variance
yard
requests, Chairman.
setback. He wants a 5-foot side yard setback on each side as well.
Mr. Miller, are you there, sir?
I'm on here, yes.
All right. Well, what's your phone number so I can see which one you are? How's the phone number end?
I'm on through my computer.
No, he's on,
up
Mr. Miller's on, actually on.
Sir, would you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth so help you God?
I do.
Who's here to testify for you, sir?
Brian Flannery.
Mr. Flannery, you there?
I don't see Brian.
Brian would answer right away without being called.
Yeah, I don't see Brian.
I don't see Brian.
He emailed me that he's trying to get on.
I think this is the first time we had a meeting and Brian wasn't there.
Well, I'm glad to be changing that.
Okay. Who's Bayla? I see Bayla's taking up 2 spots on the Zoom call. If you can please remove one.
Baylor could be new lines.
I see 2 Baylas.
2 Baylors could be new lines.
Okay.
Not sure.
Okay, I don't see Brian. We're gonna have to go back to Mr. Snyder. And I don't see,
Waiting for Moshe Langley.
I don't see much Lankery either.
But this says Moshe.
Moshe Ingba, Moshe.
Ingba
It's a
is-
phone number. Oh, there's Moshe Lankery's back on. Moshe's here.
Testing 1, 2, 3.
There
Yes,
you
we hear
are,
you.
Mike.
Okay. Brian is not here, so we're gonna skip it and we're gonna go back. Now that we have 7 members, we're gonna go back to the cell towers. Okay, we're gonna scrap 4170 and we're gonna go to 4169.
That's Locust Street, use variance requested to install a temporary wireless communication facility.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, again, fellow members of the board. Once again, for the record, Richard Schneider of the law firm of Vogel, Collins and Schneider on behalf of the applicant, Selco Partnership, doing business as Verizon Wireless. Let me, by the way, extend my appreciation, as I did last month, for when we were originally heard and weren't going to get reached, and you afforded us the courtesy of dismissing us early. A lot of boards don't do that, so my client is certainly appreciative of the courtesies you extended last month. This matter before you this evening is one of real critical importance to Verizon Wireless, and unique. It's unique in the sense that what we are seeking here is a temporary facility to address right now what is a significant wireless communication capacity issue, essentially brought about in large measure by the COVID-19 pandemic. You'll shortly hear expert testimony from our radio frequency engineer, David Stern, as to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the existing wireless communication service, which provides service to Lakewood, as well as the emergent need for this facility to address that gap. Even though the application is one for a temporary facility, we have filed it formally in accordance with your wireless communication ordinance in terms of the comprehensive submission and all other aspects. So while it's temporary, we have obviously attempted to file this application as if it was a formal and permanent application. Just so we're clear, in large measure, the application is for a 140-foot temporary facility. It will include some ground equipment at the base of the tower. Because the facility is not located in your permitted zone districts, which in this case is either the M1 or on municipal property, a use variance is required. In addition to the use variance, there's a side yard setback requirement, as well as a requirement from the required setback for the height of the tower to the property line. There is also arguably a height variance. Your ordinance only permits 90 feet if there is one user. I should note that while the tower height here is 140 feet, this tower is going to be designed to accommodate multiple users. That's one of the inquiries that was raised by your board engineer. So if there are other carriers who decide to come and utilize this facility on a temporary basis, but the tower would accommodate multiple carriers, and in that case, if there were three, the height would be conforming. There is also a required setback, which we don't meet, to the closest residence. I have three witnesses in total. If we get to all of them, the first would be Mr. David Stern. He's the applicant's radio frequency engineer. The second is Mr. Andrew Miller, the applicant's professional engineer. And the third is William Masters, the applicant's professional planner. Unless there's any other questions, I'm prepared to proceed with my first witness, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Snyder, could all three proposed witnesses raise your right hand, and then we'll ask you when it's your turn to testify to identify yourself and spell your last name. Gentlemen, do you all swear or affirm to tell the whole truth so help you God?
I do.
Or affirm? Okay. Mr. Miller, I don't think I heard from you.
I do.
Okay, thank you.
May I proceed, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, I was on mute. Go ahead.
Mr. Stern, are you ready? David, I think you have to unmute yourself.
Before you continue, I just had one quick question. I'm sorry. You said that this is a temporary antenna, right?
That's correct.
Is there plans to turning this into a permanent structure, a permanent antenna? And if so, please elaborate on that as well.
Sure. The answer is there is an attempt to site a permanent facility in this area. We are pursuing certain sites. This site at this point is not intended to be the site of the permanent facility. Frankly speaking, the landlord is not amenable or was unwilling to make a commitment to use this site on a permanent basis. So this, at this point in time, absent a reversal from the landlord, he is not willing to make a long-term commitment, so this would not be the site of the permanent facility.
Okay, so we have to look at it as a temporary facility. Okay.
That's correct.
Sorry, Mr. Snyder, temporary means what? 6 months, a year, 10 years, 20 years?
No, what we would like would be, depending on what the board's reaction is, at least a year to 18 months from the installation of the facility, or at least if the board's not comfortable with that, we would like at least 1 year with the right to extend as long as we're diligently pursuing an alternate permanent site. It is not intended to be a 10-year facility. Let me be very clear about that. I think 1 year is fair. Allow us to assess how we do in terms of the capacity issues, and that will hopefully we'll be in a position where we can site a permanent facility. And by 1 year, you'll know and we'll know where we are in that respect.
Mr. Schneider, it's Judah speaking. I'm sorry, could you again please tell me what the height of this tower is?
It's 140 feet. It would be 142 to the top of the antenna.
Okay, and when a permanent structure is going to be assembled, will it be the same height?
I would anticipate that, but that would be more a function of where the facility is ultimately located, the ground elevation of that facility. But I think it would be fair to assume that it would be a substantially similar height, but I couldn't commit to you that it would be 140, maybe lower, maybe a little bit higher, but within that range, I think is a fair response.
So is the structure of the tower going to be the same as a permanent structure would be built?
No, there are structural and design differences that would be different. This is a temporary facility, as you'll hear from our second witness. This essentially is not intended to be a permanent. The permanent would be a different design.
So if the landlord were to change his mind after this tower would go up, you would then be keeping this tower in that same location. Is that correct?
If this was intended, if the landlord somehow changed his mind, we would have to redesign it in terms of a permanent structure, so it would not be the same type of structure that's proposed here. If that
So-
answers.
And then you would have to come back for amended site plan, amended approvals.
That would be my question. But Mr. Chairman, I think once I think what I was driving at is that if we have to look at this, that is there's a possibility that this could end up being a permanent situation, because there's no way in hell, if he comes even for a temporary, that if it's there already, I don't see how we're gonna be able to tell him no later on the height issue.
No, but you can tell him no on some other things. But he has to come back anyway. But keep that in mind.
Chairman, can we start? I think we should start hearing from the witnesses, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Stern, let me qualify you for purposes of tonight's proceedings. What is your profession?
Good evening, members of the board. My name is David Stern. I am a principal in the firm of VCOM Telecommunications Engineering. That's V-COMM Telecommunications Engineering, located at 2540 US Highway 130 in Cranberry, New Jersey. I am a principal and co-owner of the firm. I have 35 years of experience in the field of radio frequency engineering and radio frequency safety. I was with Motorola Communications in Chicago, developing cellular systems back in the 80s. In the 1990s, I was with Cellular One of Central New Jersey and Ocean County as Director of Engineering, responsible for the cellular networks in Central New Jersey, Philadelphia, and South Jersey. And 25 years ago, with a partner, formed the firm of VCOM to provide wireless engineering services for the wireless and public safety communities here in the Northeast. I've appeared before more than 200 boards in the state of New Jersey, including this board about 10 years ago, and been found an expert in the field of radio frequency communications and radio frequency safety.
Okay.
Okay, 1 second, Mr. Snyder.
Sure.
Does anyone have any questions on David's expertise? Seeing none, I guess if you were here 10 years ago, we'll try to accept it today again.
Thank you.
Not that I remember you 10 years ago, but okay.
I was here on the JCP&L guide tower at the south end of downtown when it was still a guide tower, not a monopole.
Yep. I remember that. That application I remember.
And
Okay.
David, just to put your, just to expand for a moment, but notwithstanding the fact that the board has already accepted your qualifications, you mentioned to me that you have a specific familiarity with Lakewood in terms of providing some consulting services to its public emergency services.
Yes, in the past, I have been a consultant to Atsala of Lakewood, now Atsala of Central New Jersey, in regards to building out their two-way radio network to support Atsala's operations. Okay. That's over the last 5 years.
Thank you. David, let's take a moment before we get into the substance of your testimony. You're familiar with the subject property as well as the surrounding area, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you're familiar with Verizon Wireless's existing coverage and sites within Lakewood Township as well as the surrounding area, I assume, correct?
Yes, I am.
And you're familiar with the site plan, at least from a radio frequency perspective, am I correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and you, in conjunction with your testimony this evening, you've had the opportunity to review the Lakewood Township Wireless Communication Ordinance, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Members of the board, I trust, and certainly the more experienced members of the board, I'm sure are very familiar with Verizon, having appeared before this township on many prior occasions. But just for purposes of the record, am I correct that Verizon Wireless is one of the carriers licensed to provide wireless communication services to the market area of Lakewood? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And Verizon, needless to say, operates a number of sites within Lakewood and the surrounding municipalities that provide current coverage to Lakewood, correct?
Yes, they do.
And without getting in the interest of time, without getting into all of those, you have submitted as part of the application submission an inventory of existing sites which depict all of the sites that Verizon is currently operated on within Lakewood. Am I correct about that?
That is correct.
Okay, and what we'll get to in a second is you also have identified on certain mapping the specific sites within Lakewood that provide coverage and impact the need for this facility. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm going to ask you at this time, we did submit as part of this application some specific maps. They're referenced on your, they were submitted with the application, subsequent to the application, and they are posted on the website. Jerry, do I need to specifically mark it? They're listed on the website. They were part of the supplemental application. I could do so if you'd like, whatever your pleasure is in that regard.
If they were submitted with the application, they're fine. We have them. Only new exhibits we have to mark into evidence.
For the benefit of the board and any members of the public, I'm now referring, or Mr. Stern will be referring to exhibits that are titled Lakewood Sites Traffic Data, and it contains some technical information. So let me do this. David, there's some information that you have provided to the board. I trust the board has all of that. Without me hopefully interrupting you, if you can take us through the data, and specifically from an overall perspective, what has prompted what I've referred to as this capacity issue that's of an emergent need to be addressed.
Okay.
David, before you continue, I just want to show to fellow board members that you're referring to is to this plan. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, David.
Okay. So what I provided to you is some detailed information regarding the Verizon wireless network. I'm going to walk you through the first couple of slides, and then we're going to go look at the map, and then we'll talk about specifics. Verizon Wireless in April of last year received a call from a number of, and I don't have any specific names, leaders from the Lakewood community asking for Verizon Wireless to significantly upgrade its capacity on its wireless network serving Lakewood. And I'm going to talk about in the slides that I'm going to show you. I'm going to go to the first slide. It's a red squiggly line, and it's entitled Verizon Wireless Lakewood Cluster Daily Total MOUs. MOU stands for minutes of use. And the information here is a combination of all of the Lakewood sites and how much traffic they are generating in the voice side of the MOUs. And this is 4G voice data and 3G voice data. This is not internet usage or data usage. This is actually the voice usage on the system. What I want to share with you is if you look at in Lakewood as part of the Philadelphia metro system, it's all controlled out of the switches within South Jersey and Philadelphia. Of the 20 busiest cell sites, macro cell sites in the Philadelphia region for Verizon Wireless, 10 of those are Lakewood sites. So that includes taking into account Center City, Cherry Hill, Camden, Trenton. In the top 10, the wireless usage in Lakewood represents 10 out of the top 20 macro cells in the Verizon network. The information here, we're starting, the red line is this daily MOU, and you're seeing it's it starts out in February of 2020 at about 10 million minutes of use per day on the Lakewood cluster. Once we hit, on I'll just say after Purim last year, which is mid-March, we skyrocket in traffic from that 10 million MOUs per day to closing in on 17 million minutes of use per day of traffic. And soon after that, we started to do the Zoom school through June. And you see that traffic, that voice traffic is significantly going up. So we went up about 70% in traffic. And very slowly over time, it's dropped a little bit all the way till this year, about 50% higher than we were a year ago. So the traffic significantly spiked up, slowly come back down on the voice side. But the network was never designed to carry that much traffic. And typically what we see is a 20 to 40% rise of traffic annually over time. But to go to 70%, almost 80% more traffic over the summer, slowly come back down, and now you're starting to see the traffic go back up to that 15 million number on this cluster and go up. So I just wanted to point out that this is one of the generators of this need. Go to the second slide. More impressive. This is data volume. This is the actual data usage on the network in that same cluster. Come to mid-March, traffic starts going up. We start remote school, traffic is still up. And then in September, it gets even bigger. I can't, Verizon actually calls me up sometimes and has asked me over the years about traffic in specific neighborhoods throughout the New York metro area, and one of them being Lakewood, and trying to educate them on different aspects of the network topology and the network usage representative of certain neighborhoods, Lakewood being one of them. One of the things we see is that the data usage has significantly grown and keeps growing. From the pandemic, we're up about almost 40% where we were last year at this time. One of the things we've known is that there is a lower take rate in Lakewood on wired internet. That would be either from cable TV or from Fios. So when the pandemic hit and the need came for access to data from home and from outside of the normal business places, the wireless device became the dominant provider of that interconnect connection to facilitate communications for both business and education. When schools opened in September, I know the yeshivas opened up, public schools opened up in Lakewood, we did not see a decrease in the usage on the data side. The increase, the network is still being used, and it's being used more. And I actually did not have a really good explanation to Verizon when they came back and asked me that specific question, because I would have said, well, if the yeshivas opened up, I would have thought the data usage would have started to trickle down. It has not. The data usage climbed all the way to the end of the year, and has plateaued for now. But the data usage in Lakewood is definitely significantly higher than it was where it was last year. The third slide is what we call our drop call rate on the VoLTE. And let me just, if for those of you who are not aware about how the Verizon network has migrated over the last few years, we introduced in 2012 the first 4G cell sites, and in the last 9 years we've converted as much of the network as possible to 4G, and part of that was configuring the voice to go over the LTE system, the 4G data. If you have your phone system from over your internet and you use one of the services, not Verizon or not Verizon landline, you're typically using a voice over IP or a VoIP connection. The VoLTE is exactly the same technology. It's just using the Verizon 4G data network. about 80% of Verizon voice calls are now on the 4G data network. So only about 20% are left still on the old 2G and 3G technologies. Another side note, the communities I spoke about earlier seem to still be have a significant amount of 3G devices, and Verizon is looking to try to figure out how to get the remaining 3G devices off the network so they can launch 4G across all of its spectrum, and at this point they can't. The one interesting thing they said is because there was a lot of 3G equipment still in the Lakewood area that did help to carry more calls because there was still 3G out there, as the 4G was being used by people trying to use it as for internet. The 3G equipment still being there to support the people that had decided they don't want to get 4G phones, no smartphones. That actually was a help in trying to carry more voice traffic on the network because the phone devices could fall back to 3G. So that was an interesting side note to that. The last question here. So here on this slide, we see that in this cluster of Lakewood, the drop call rate was below 1%, which is pretty much what we hold all the engineers and operations people on the performance side of Verizon to always keep that drop call rate down below 1%, so that on average only 1 out of every 100 calls drops. That drop call rate with the pandemic went almost to 3%. It has come back down over time as we've tried to do things to improve the performance of the network, but we are still at the 1.5% range. So the network still is not operating where it was prior to the pandemic. So all the network has been hit with this new need, this new load on the system that it wasn't designed to.
David, if I
yes.
can interrupt you just for 1 second on the last slide, so to speak, that percentage that you're referring to, which is above the standard of 1, that's only applying to calls as compared to drop data connection. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is just voice calls on the network, and it's only calls that have been placed. It's not invalid attempts where you try to hit the send button and the network doesn't have enough capacity for you. This is calls that are already on the network.
Okay. That was my next question, but you've answered that. Go ahead.
Right. So the need for the sites, and we have a number of sites planned over the next over the next year in Lakewood, is really trying to address the capacity issue, the performance issues in Lakewood, and putting more equipment to handle more calls in the Lakewood area. This isn't a coverage issue, although by having too much network used up and no capacity, it does turn into a coverage problem. But the real issue here is we just don't have the capacity on the network to handle it. Let's get to specifics. The next page in the report is a map. This is a map of Southern Lakewood and a little bit of Toms River to the south. And this is a snapshot from the Google Earth mapping tool. On here, I placed red push pins for the existing Verizon wireless sites. And the green push pin in the center is for the temporary cow. Just so I explain the nomenclature, so someone says, what does that mean? OCC represents Ocean County cells. WLV represents a search area, which is West Leisure Village. Leisure Village is just to the east of this area, closer to the Garden State Parkway. And Temp Cow is temporary, and cow is cell on wheels. So that's the nomenclature why you see the name OCCWLV Temp Cow on all of our documentation. So I just wanted to explain what that is.
Mr. Stewart, can I just ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
I know there's another tower So a little bit to the northwest of, I'm sorry, northeast of where you want to locate right now.
Yeah, that's at the John Patrick Sports Center.
And there's no capacity for you to add to that tower?
We are. That's an addition. We're in the process of getting our permits to go on that tower now.
So you still feel the need, when you have on that tower, you still feel the need to put another one over there as well?
Yes.
And
exactly.
The lake.
Mr. Gross, I'll go through this so that you understand why, but yes, we do. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to make sure. And then the Lakewood, the one that says Lakewood, that's on High Street. That's the high tower area.
Yeah, that's on Mass Avenue. That's the big tower on Mass Avenue.
Right. And there's, if I'm not mistaken, there's also another tower near the Pine Park area, but I don't see that marked down over here. That's not your tower, is that? That's a Sprint tower?
I believe so.
But you don't need capacity on that side. You're not looking for that.
I'm looking for a lot of sites. Like I said, there's a lot of sites in play right now in Lakewood to try to dramatically increase. Some of them you're already aware of. Some of them we already have applications in. There's one on Squonkam Road, out north of the Raintree neighborhood that we're in zoning in right now, but that has a cow similar to this cow. That has a cow also, and we also put the cow in Georgia Court College. So we have other things that we're trying to try to do to build around here.
And just to respond to Mr. Gross's question, we factored in that the first site that you mentioned, and in fact, we already have or are in the process of applying for building permits to locate on that.
Okay.
Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
All right. So if as we look around here, and I'm just going to focus on the sites that are immediately adjacent. The site that Mr. Gross already identified as our Lakewood site, that's on the Mass Avenue Tower. That is it's a 260-foot tall guide tower. For Verizon Wireless, that was the first site in Lakewood 28 years ago. That is one of the highest spots in Lakewood. It is the tallest structure in Lakewood. It covers a significant part of the Lakewood, and it carries a lot of traffic for the network, and we'll go over that in a minute. We have the cell site on the Kimball Medical Center, just to the northeast of there. Coming further to the east, we have a site called Lakewood Relo. That is on the water tank near the airport. Coming down to the south, we have our Pine Acres site, which is in Toms River. It's on a power tower. And then we have our OCC, coming back to the west, we have our OCC Route 637. That's on a monopole behind the U-Haul complex on Route 9. And then we also have in the Whitesville Strip Mall, we have a tiny little network node. It's a 15-foot telephone pole with an antenna on it that really just covers the mall and the intersection of on Whitesville Road and the road just Route 527 down there in Toms River. So it's a small one. The site that we're mainly focused on is the Mass Avenue site. That is for us. It's in this area, it's like a downtown Center City, Philadelphia site that we built many years ago. It covers an awful lot of area, and we're trying to basically pull that site back because it's carrying too much traffic on it. So we're trying to circle that site with additional sites. And if you look to this map is a good indicator. If you look to the southwest of that site, it's 100% residential all to the southwest. So the closer I can get to that area with the site, because I can't get into those residential neighborhoods with the location. So the area along Route 9 is our primary search area. As Mr. Schneider's discussed earlier, we have approached Finnegan's Alley, Finnegan's Lane to use their property. And he already talked about the fact that they weren't amenable to a permanent long-term lease, but they were accepting of our short-term lease to try to get a site in there to provide the needed capacity while we search for other sites in this area. That was one of the larger properties that we had access to. So that was, so I kind of showed you that's the issue, the map of the area here in South Lakewood. And the real focus is to put more sites around that Mass Avenue site so it doesn't cover more. So I'm going to show you some more. This is, I hate to call it secret sauce, but this is stuff we don't usually put out there, but I asked for it from Verizon. So you can see some of the tools we use to look at network performance. So the next drawing is something known as forward data volume. This is the tool we use to understand what's going on with a particular cell site and the usage. In this particular picture, we're looking at the AWS band, which is the 2100 megahertz band and its usage. As you can see, the forward data volume, and to try to explain what the units are is it has to do with megabits in a given hour, the forward data volume, and what it's carrying. What I look for is the trend line and how much. This is from the Kimball Medical Center and kind of facing towards the south. So they have a sector pointed south, and we can see the growth of the usage on that sector, and then it dropped back down a little bit after the summer. The next one is the Lakewood Reload Gamma sector. That's the sector pointed to the west from the water tank over by the airport. And that just shows traffic. We had the growth, and then it stabilized during the summer. The final one is the Lakewood Beta sector. That's the antenna pointed south. What I want to show you is you go back to the two previous, we were at 30,000 megabytes per hour. And that's not exactly it, but it's the usage, but it's the 30,000 number. And the other two sites were at 15,000 and 10,000. So what I wanted to show you was the order of how much traffic has been carried on the site. We've done things to shift traffic off of this site just because it had reached its capacity and we could not do anything else with the site by the time we hit April, May. So we basically pushed traffic off of it to the adjacent sites. That does not improve system performance. That increases drop calls. It increases drop losses both on the data and on the voice side. But it was better than not being able to carry the traffic at all, which is where we were at before. So, we're trying to do things to offload this Lakewood site as best we can. So that is the information. I just wanted to show you that so you have an understanding of the magnitude of the traffic on that Lakewood site compared to the other sites. So the Lakewood, we would like to bring those antennas on the Lakewood site down lower, but we can't until we fill around that site. So putting more sites to the north of it and to the south and the west of it is what our goal will be over time to offload that site long term. And as you can see from the data, we have a significant amount of traffic in this of data traffic and voice traffic in this area that still need to be carried. And as I said, we thought this was just, the COVID pandemic really hit the network hard. Lakewood uses this network. They've used this network much harder than they had before. We had thought that the network would be in better shape after all the schools opened up, and it has turned out, no, it's not the case. People are still using their devices. People are still using that data. They're still using the voice much more than they did before that. There's always a concern, and hopefully we are over that hump that we will go back to a shutdown. I hope that's not going to happen now. That we're getting over the hump and getting vaccinated and stuff like that. But we still need to dramatically improve and expand the capacity of the network in Lakewood, and that's why we're adding more sites. We're trying to add the technology to it. You'll see that we have one of the power tower sites at the north end of Lakewood. That's the very north, the top at Route 9. We're on a power tower there. We can't add all the new technology to that power tower, so we're actually going to build another tower in Howell to carry that traffic, because we need to be able to add all of the technologies and all of the spectrum to these sites in order to get the most capacity out of each of these sites. It's that important to us. So that in a long way is the need for this site. As far as the height goes, you can see from the map that we were looking at before with the red dots. This is in the middle of an open area. The 140 feet is needed. Would I take it bigger? Yes. I'm trying to push as far west into those neighborhoods as possible, as well as to the east into those neighborhoods that are in between where we're proposing this location and the Lakewood Reload and the Pine Acres site, in what is referred to as the Leisure Village area. We want to get that far out. So our goal is really to get out, is to fill in from a coverage standpoint, to pull the traffic off of the adjacent sites. The real goal here is to cover from Chestnut Street to the north, down past Locust Street, all the way down into the Toms River border, and get out to New Hampshire, as well as out to the west, into those communities that are to the west of the proposed location.
David, let me, if I can follow through on a couple of questions. You addressed the hype. Let me ask you a couple of follow-up, hopefully last questions. Under Lakewood's wireless communication ordinance, the only zones where wireless facilities would be permitted would either be on municipal property or in the M1 zone. I assume that there is either no municipal properties, or certainly the location of the M1 zone is such that you cannot utilize the M1 zone in a manner which would address testicular capacity issues. Is that correct?
That is correct. The closest M1 zones is north of the Mass Avenue Tower. So we already have a tower near there. And the second closest is over in the direction of the airport. And we already have the water tank site in that area covering that. So we're already utilizing sites that are close to those, are close to or in the M1 zones, and they do not serve this area.
Okay. Lastly, before we switch gears to another area, the question was asked about that site that I referred to. We call it Lakewood 3. You've done the analysis, and that will not eliminate the need for the proposed facility. Is that correct?
Yeah, the existing monopole located on John F. Patrick Sports Complex, the monopole there, that will not meet our requirements. And in fact, this is in addition to that, and we'll need more sites than just those two sites to meet the needs to provide sufficient capacity into Lakewood.
Okay, and therefore I can, or you can I ask you whether you have a professional opinion as to whether the proposed installation of this facility would eliminate the capacity issue that you've described here this evening?
This will address part of the capacity issue affecting Lakewood. There are more sites that will be needed over time to do it, but this along with the site at the John Patrick Sports Complex will address a significant amount of the capacity issues in southern and southwestern Lakewood Township.
Okay. You also, or the applicant also submitted as part of this application, a report for the purposes of confirming that the levels of radio frequency emissions will be in strict compliance with FCC standard. Your firm was the preparer of that report, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and for purposes of the record, Mr. Chairman, Counselor, that was submitted with the original application. I'm referring to a report by VCOM dated November 17th, 2020. Mr. Stern, that report was prepared by you or under your direct supervision, is that correct?
That is correct.
And the purpose of that report, as I just mentioned, was to confirm that that the levels of radio frequency emission will be in strict compliance with all applicable FCC standards. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And you utilize in the preparation of that report the required FCC methodology for confirming compliance. Am I correct?
That is correct.
And you utilize what I call generally a series of worst case scenario assumptions in addition to the FCC methodology. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And based on all of those determinations, can you confirm that the levels of radio frequency emissions will be in strict compliance? And if you can maybe express that and just to give the board the utmost level of comfort as a percentage of what's permitted and authorized by the FCC.
Right. The FCC has in its rules levels that they have identified that you have to be lower than, and they address how to calculate that in their Office of Engineering Technology Bulletin 65. When you take into account all Verizon Wireless spectrum and set all the transmitters to maximum power, typically Verizon does not use maximum power on these sites because of self-interference. But when you look at that and you take this at the 140-foot level, and we did a measuring point, which is where we identify where people would be. We actually used, in this case, we assumed that there would be an individual standing on the rooftop, working on the rooftop of nearby homes to the northwest of the facility. So we actually did the calculations, assuming that somebody was standing on the roof of the two-story buildings nearby. And at that level, on that roof, if that person was going to measure the RF energy, it would be at 1/2 of 1% of the FCC standard. So for the environment for the public environment, which is where they're not aware of the fact that there's a tower nearby, 100 being the 100% being the level that is acceptable, we're at 1/2 of 1% or 200 times below the FCC's level for the maximum permissible exposure levels for RF emissions. So this site is well in compliance with the FCC rules. Should other carriers come to this facility, I would anticipate a similar level for each carrier at about, and it would be an additive. So if it was about 0.5% here, each additional carrier would add about 0.5%. So if there were 4 carriers, I would expect the levels to be approximately 2% of the FCC standards for a facility like this. So this site is well in compliance with the FCC standards.
Thank you. I have nothing further for Mr. Stern, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Just as a quick note, the time is now 9:18. I would like to take a 10-minute break. And when we come back, if you don't mind, proceeding with your next witness.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, we'll be back at 9:30.
Just got the notice today.
Mr. Snyder?
Yes,
Hi. Just for time-wise, how many more witnesses do you have for tonight?
I have two. The engineer, hopefully, I think I can go through it pretty quickly because I think most of the issues raised in the board engineer's report we can work on offline. I don't want to be presumptuous, but I think we can, rather than go through, line by line, and then the planner, who I could probably do in about 15, 20 minutes, but
So you need approximately,
I think, I would think for direct, subject to whatever questions the board may have, I can do both witnesses probably in a half hour.
okay. I'm just trying to look at my calendar,
Understood.
Alrighty, thank you.
Sounded like you were there for the original application many years ago.
Me?
Yes.
I'm on the board almost 20 years. I'm the chairman for the last 10 years. And yes, I remember a lot of things. Are you guys presenting the other one by Wawa at County Line Road? We have another.
I think it was in 2007.
What you say?
I think it was in 2007.
I don't know the exact date.
That was on, I remember.
Okay. Mayor, your video is off, by the way.
I know. I don't even see me eating.
Oh, really? All right, you want to get me hungry?
Like, it doesn't sound like you're not eating anything yourself.
No, God
Whenever
forbid.
you want to start, let's start.
I'm on a diet.
Let's get started.
You know that?
You can start already.
Who's rushing over here?
It's 9:31.
9:31. Okay, everyone back on. Let's go. Mayor, jealous? Look, this is what it is.
L'chaim.
Hey, was that a nut? What was that?
No.
Celebrity.
Not.
What was
It's like the beach. The nuts are behind you on the beach.
I'm not even going to respond to that. We're not. I'm afraid there may not be. Not everybody on the line may be adults. I'm afraid.
All right. I would be careful next time I put those pictures up behind you,
Who we missing? Abe?
I don't know who we're missing. Let me look.
Once again, I'm mostly here.
I think
Let me see. Who
everybody's
do we
back.
got? Is everyone on? Is
Brian's got a way to go.
Brian's got to go back to sleep? Couldn't log on before.
With Jacob
I love
Miller, I
Brian.
think, and
Okay, so I have Naftali here. Brian, you can go back to sleep. You couldn't log on before. I was going to get you out of the way, but what are you
not
going to
gonna happen.
do? Avram is here. Mayor is here. Judah is here.
And
Moody
Mike-
Gross. Lankry. Moshe Lankry, are you around? Mr. Lankry. Don't see him. How about Moshe Ingber?
There's my Shimba.
There's Moshe Ingber, okay.
So all we need is my Schlankley.
Now he needs Moshe Lankry. There he is. Moshe Lankry, is he on? His camera is off, so he's not there. He's still going, making his pizza.
He's down the bottom on his cell phone.
It is. And
He's on a cell phone? Yeah, he's on a cell phone. Nice.
Who was that talking, Abe? Is that your wife in the background?
No, that's Shifra.
Shifra, excuse me, Shifra.
Say hello to Franny. Franny wants to say hello.
Chairman, can we move on?
It's Franny. Say hello to Franny.
Abe,
Hi, Shifra.
Oh, there he is. Okay, everyone's on. Let's go.
Let's go.
We will continue. Okay, Mr. Schneider, you may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to call Mr. Andrew Miller. Andrew, are you on?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. I'll remind you that you've been previously sworn. Let me just take a couple of hopefully very, very brief moments just to qualify you. Let me see if I can move it along. You are a licensed professional engineer of the state of New Jersey?
That's correct.
Okay, and your license is in good standing, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and very briefly, can you provide the board with the benefit of your education and experience?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from the University of Central Florida. I have a Structural Engineering certificate from the University of Idaho. And in addition to New Jersey, I'm also a professional engineer licensed in 35 other states, as well as the District of Columbia. And I've been accepted as a professional in the state of New Jersey many times.
Mr. Chairman, I offer Mr. Miller as an expert in the field of civil engineering.
Anyone have any questions? Anyone have any objections? Seeing none, let's proceed.
Thank you. Mr. Miller, you are the preparer of the site plan that is before the board, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you're generally familiar with the site, correct?
Yes.
And you have the opportunity to review the Lakewood Wireless Communication Ordinance, correct?
Correct.
And you've also had the opportunity to spend some significant time reviewing the municipal review report issued by the zoning board engineer, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I think the board is probably, I'm going to make an assumption, is very familiar with the subject property, but nevertheless, for purposes of the record, can you take a couple of moments to take us through the description of the subject property in terms of its lot, block, zoning designation, location, and present improvements?
Yes, so this is 101 Locust Street, block 1077, lot 60. Current land area is 6 acres, and the zoning is B5. Currently, as previously mentioned, there is Finnegan's Alley located on the property, and to my knowledge, that is the main structure.
Okay, and just for purposes of the record, we're located in the B5 zone. I think you indicated we're 6 acres. That's well, or 261,000 square feet to be exact. That's well in excess of the 20,000 minimum lot area in that zone, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and without me interrupting you, can you, for the benefit of the board and any members of the public, can you take us through specifically what is proposed by the applicant for purposes of this temporary facility in response to one of the board members' questions, how it would differ from a permanent facility, and give us all the relevant details of that which is proposed?
Absolutely. So currently proposed, as mentioned numerous times tonight, is a steel monopole. The pole itself is going to be 140 feet. It is going to be placed on a 24-foot by 24-foot steel ballast frame. And this is where the temporary site differs from a permanent site. As you may be aware, a permanent site will be placed on a foundation that is buried in the ground. This will be a steel ballast frame that will be placed above grade, and between the ballast frame and the existing grade, there will be a compacted stone pad to ensure that the site is level. So the ballast will be placed on the steel frame, and that's what will provide the stability for the monopole. The monopole itself does not differ from a permanent installation.
With respect to, if I could just interrupt you, and I said I wouldn't, but the actual height of the structure is 140 feet, but the antennas slightly are in excess of that, I believe, up to a maximum height of 143 feet. Is that correct?
Correct. The top of the antennas will be 143 feet. The top of the monopole, because of the base that it is placed on, will be at 142 feet.
Okay. And without getting into all of the very technical details, in the interest of time, we have submitted a structural report as part of the application, and the structural report does confirm that the facility will comply and is in strict compliance with all applicable structural code provisions. Is that correct?
That is correct. And it should be noted that the wind speeds were not reduced because of the temporary nature of this structure. So we followed the code for a permanent structure. We used exposure class C and 119 miles an hour of wind for the analysis. And that's where we got the usage for the pole and also calculated the required ballast.
Okay, excellent.
Can I interrupt you for a second?
Sure.
Sure. Is this picture what you're referring to as the ballast?
Yes, you can see it behind that trailer. Concrete blocks.
Mr. Chairman, I think the one you're referring to are photos that we submitted, which is at the Squantum Road site that currently exists. That Verizon has. Is there any differences in terms of, there is some the structure itself is the same, but are there some differences, Andrew, between that and the ground type and the ground equipment as compared to this type of facility?
Very minor. So in the case of the photos that the chairman just showed, the equipment is placed next to the pole and the base. In this case, we have the equipment going directly on the base.
Okay.
But for all intents and purposes, it is extremely similar.
Okay. And for purposes of the overall site layout, is there fencing that is surrounding the proposed pole?
Yes.
Okay. And my notes indicate that's a 6-foot high temporary fence, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what about, are there within this facility, there is equipment or equipment cabinets or other equipment which provides essentially the support, not the structural support, but the other support for radio equipment, et cetera, that serves in conjunction with the tower. Is that correct? And that's located within the 28 by 28 foot fence area?
That is correct. And those equipments are roughly the size of a refrigerator.
Okay, so they're the functional equivalent of a refrigerator that any individual would have. Are there other utility cabinets that are proposed within the fence area or outside of the fence area for that matter?
Within the fence area, no. Outside of the fence area, about coming from the street about halfway up the property, we will have temporary installations for the power meter, the disconnect, what we call a fiber cube, which will bring the fiber to the site, and that will all be placed on a separate ballasted steel sled, much smaller, and that will be ballasted with standard CMU blocks.
And let's talk for a moment. Also submitted in conjunction with the application was a report from the FAA. There is no lighting that is required at this tower, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Nevertheless, is there a small light which helps provide some lighting for the just the equipment? Is it one light?
It's a single light, and it will be on a timer.
Okay. And what is the required maintenance visits, if any, to this site? These are unmanned facilities, correct?
Correct. It is an unmanned facility, and maintenance is expected to be 1 to 2 trips a month.
Okay. By virtue of the temporary facility, there's no affirmative opportunity really here to provide any landscaping, so we're not proposing any necessarily. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. What was the design consideration as to the specific location on the subject property in terms of where it's located and the resultant need to require some setback variances?
Yes, so it's located at the back parking lot of the bowling alley. The location has two factors. One, the landlord required that we did not take up any existing parking spaces. And two, we needed to be in relative proximity to the utilities that I mentioned earlier, about halfway up the property. Obviously, they cannot, in a temporary installation, we do not want them running across a parking lot or anything of that nature. So in this case, they parallel the property line and go straight back to the proposed temporary site location.
Okay. Given the, that's helpful, given the temporary nature and the way you've described the facilities, from an engineering perspective, are there any specific concerns or issues to address relative to stormwater, drainage, or the like?
There are not.
Okay. In the interest of time and not certainly meaning to rush through your presentation, you did have the opportunity to review the municipal engineer's review report. And I'll certainly ask the municipal engineer to, if he has any specific questions or concerns, we can certainly address them. But by and large, are there aspects of the report that you are not confident that you could work out with the municipal engineer offline, so to speak, if the applicant is fortunate enough to receive approval?
That is correct. I have no concerns.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further. I'm trying to be sensitive to your agenda and time. I don't want to go through, the 6 pages of comments. That's why I asked the question. Certainly, if there's any specific questions or concerns that may be raised by your engineer, we're more than happy to respond to it, but I didn't want to take your valuable time and go through each.
I appreciate that, and thank you for the.
Excuse me, Chairman, if I could.
Yes, there you are.
Yeah, I'm fine with them addressing the design issues in compliance if board approval is granted. Just want to get one thing on the record. I believe there was earlier testimony to meet the height requirements that up to 3 sets of antenna could ultimately end up on this temporary tower.
That's what I heard.
All right. If that's being the case, then we would want the final ballast design on the foundation to accommodate up to 3 sets of antennas.
Okay. I have a quick question for Mr. Miller. How far is the nearest structure, the nearest building to this antenna, to this ballast, to this site?
243 feet, 244 feet roughly.
Okay, so there is nothing closer than 240 feet when we have an antenna of 140 feet. Should the antenna, God forbid, fall, it will not fall on any structure of any residential or commercial or anything.
That's correct.
Okay.
Or off-site, we're talking about.
Off-site, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes, correct.
Yeah, perimeter around it, correct. Okay. I don't have any further questions.
And can I just ask for a quick clarification from the engineer? You say that you would like the ballast designed for 3 carriers. Is that upfront, or if additional carriers come, you would like us to update our analysis?
We could deal with it procedurally during compliance. If we were going to do a phased approach, there'd have to be some mechanism where we could ensure the proper review. That's something we're going to have to work out.
Understood. Thank you.
Terry, I would anticipate that a second collator would need a zoning permit, and that would trigger the review by you to see if it's still structurally sound enough, that kind of thing.
If that's the case, Jerry, then we could do a phased approach on the structure.
Okay, good.
I think clearly the new one comes at a different height, no?
It's not going to be higher than 142 feet.
I understand, but
that's what I heard.
If a new one comes, they would have to place themselves, the platform or whatever it is at a different height. They don't all come at different. So this is the maximum anyway.
I'll play RF and site plan engineer in the interest of time. Usually there's about a 10-foot tip to tail separation. So usually it would work out, someone would be at us at 140, the next carrier at 130, the third carrier at 120. That's the way these things generally unfold. And that makes the most sense because we don't know if and when, but as council noted, anyone would have to get building permits and a zoning permit to locate. So that's why I think the phased approach under the circumstance makes the most sense if acceptable to the board. I have nothing further for
Through chair.
Okay, who said that?
Moish.
Moish, go ahead.
There was talk about this being temporary, possibly being temporary after a year. If that is so, is this coming down afterwards?
Correct. So whether it's a year or 15 months, whatever the board decides, will represent that upon termination of that, the site will be removed and restored to its original condition.
Okay. And the next question is a legal question. In the past, Jerry, if you can pipe in on this. In the past, there was when we've had cell towers or cell situations, there was talk about inherently beneficial use. What's your opinion on inherently beneficial use in this capacity?
Well, the Supreme Court is sort of, Mr. Stroud, you could tell me if I'm wrong here. The Supreme Court has decided not to decide that issue yet. My recollection is. Mr. Snyder, do you agree?
So I'll give the nutshell version, which I think will directly respond. The Supreme Court has not deemed it to be inherently beneficial, but what it has said is even though we're not going to make it an inherently beneficial use, as long as you're licensed by the FCC, your use is one as a matter of law, which has been held to serve the general welfare. So as a matter of law, the use advances the purposes of zoning as a matter of law, even though technically it's not an inherently beneficial use. And what I'll get to in my planner, what the Supreme Court has said is even though we're not an inherently beneficial use, for purposes of assessing the negative criteria, we're essentially going to use the inherently beneficial use status. It's called the SICA four-prong balancing test, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. So to answer your question, it's not inherently beneficial use, but the use serves the general welfare as a matter of law, and we use the same criteria as an inherently beneficial use relative to the negative criteria.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Sort of say it's not
Go ahead, Mayor Gelli.
beneficial, but it's been deemed beneficial, generally, again, like in one sentence.
Quick question.
Yes.
I don't get an understanding of this temporary thing. If we need it now, so why don't we make something permanent now? What's supposed to happen?
Because the landlord does not allow him to do it as a
The landlord has not granted, we would love to do that, but we have not been granted, we don't have the ability to achieve a long-term lease on this property, which would allow us to make it a permanent facility.
You've looked for other places and you couldn't find.
I'm sorry?
You've looked for other places and you couldn't find or something.
That's correct. That's why, and we're under, as I think you can appreciate, we're under some significant time constraints. So we had a willing landlord who was amenable to doing this for a specified period, from a year to 18 months. That would be my request, but we can address that at the end. And that's why we're doing this temporary, the hope, and we are diligently pursuing a permanent site, but we need to get this up in the air and running like yesterday.
So if we're making a motion to approve, we're making a motion to approve for 18 months, let's say.
That's correct.
Okay.
Chairman, I can continue with my next witness unless there's any other questions.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I have a question, Moshe Ingber.
Go ahead, Moshe.
This question is to David Stern. You mentioned some interesting information that the network was actually pulling, I don't know how to repeat this, I'm not a tech guy, but data, 3G data instead of 4G data, down, which you found to be interesting. Was that correct?
Well, what I said was that there's still a lot of 3G devices in Lakewood, and that actually helped out in that the 4G data was overwhelmed with usage, and the voice calls were able to drop down to the 3G because it was still there. the goal of Verizon is to migrate all of the devices to 4G and to end the use of 3G technology. Outside of this community and several other communities in New York Metro, most of the 3G equipment is now is gone from the network. They retired it. But the fact that it was still here actually helped out in voice traffic being able to be carried over the 3G while data was being carried over 4G.
I got
So
you.
it was an interesting phenomenon that had happened.
So I'm going to try to make sense of that for you. And then I want to do a follow-up question, because if we're going to do this as a very beneficial inherent use to the community, again, it's speculation. I'm not a tech guy, but there's a tremendous amount of people in this community who chose not to use smartphones and only to use an older model phone, like a flip phone with a little bit of older technology, a 3G technology, and they actually sell them in the local stores because schools in the neighborhood do not let children come in with smartphones, phones that have access to internet. And I'm afraid that if you guys upgrade the network, a lot of the people that are specifically wanting to use the older phones and the older technology because they don't want children, and a lot of adults choose not to have a lot of communication or high-speed internet or data that are coming through the new technology and the new smartphones. Are these old phones going to get, wiped out and not going to be able to be used, because it's a big part of our community?
Mr. Ingberg, you've been sitting in my office for the last couple of years because I get this question from Verizon Wireless, where all the communities throughout New York Metro, they call me up and say, David, why can't I get rid of 3G? And they list off the neighborhoods. And I give the speech you just gave. I show them the video from Shea Stadium about the big, what was it, about 10 years ago, the anti-internet rally. I say, you see this? 40,000 people showed up at Shea Stadium to with the anti-internet, and I said, this is what you've got to do. And I talked to them about it. I say, you need to sit down with your marketing people. You need to sit down with your compatriots in Israel who are working on 4G flip phones. I'll call them kosher phones. They need to market that in the communities in the New York metro area. Whether it's KJ or Passaic or Flatbush, Crown Heights, Borough Park, Lakewood, all these communities, in Rockland County, all have the same issue, and they all have exactly the same story you just gave. And I've been preaching this now for about 3 years as they're trying to do this. So I understand it, and I've been preaching it, and they have not turned down the 3G because they have tens of thousands of subscriber units still in those communities for exactly the reason you described.
That's amazing. Just to enlighten you, exactly where this tower is going is a large and extremely growing Hasidic community, which also is a community that adheres to the no internet. All the schools have banned any child from having a smartphone. And if you put up this brand new technology tower, are they going to still be able to have access to the old 3G? Is it going to accommodate 3G, 4G, and LTE or whatever else you might have? I guess is my question.
That is an excellent question, and I will definitely take that back to Verizon. And there's plenty of that technology sitting in a warehouse somewhere in New Jersey because it's been deinstalled from many, many sites. But I agree with you. That is a very relevant piece of input that I will carry back to Verizon and let them know as they start introducing some of these additional sites into Lakewood, they need to keep that in mind. Thank you for that input.
If it helps you, you could reach out to to our board secretary. She can put you in touch with me, and I can forward you all different local advertisements from local, cell phone stores pushing these kosher phones. So it may.
I'm aware of it. I'm aware of it, and I've had these discussions with Verizon to try to bring them up to speed and understanding it. The idea here is they need to come up with 4G kosher flip phones that don't have anything but VoLTE on them, or, as I said, the minimum, the most used applications I think have been WhatsApp and Waze, and that's about as technology strong as they can get, and that's it. They can't do anything else. So
Right.
I've had these discussions with their technical people. It's funny because they come to me and say why, and I said, here, you need to get educated. Go talk to your team in Israel that markets to the communities in Israel about these topics and about these technologies. Because if you don't, then you're going to be stuck with 3G equipment out and these things, and you're not going to be able to clear 800 megahertz or one of the PCS bands for decades until you do that.
Right, and there's also a non-for-profit organization in Lakewood called TAG, which actually has offices now in every major, and actually in a lot of countries, including most major Jewish communities. And this is what they focus on: locking out all these apps and opening up only with the ones you just mentioned.
Yep.
So I appreciate your attention to that, and hopefully we'll still be able to service the people that want to be only on specific network, specific.
It's very strange being the only subject matter expert in the Verizon camp that that's listening and is trying to educate this community, educate the Verizon community about this issue. It's also interesting that I don't hear from T-Mobile or AT&T. I'll hear from Verizon on this issue.
Right. Well, they have better service, so people try to stick with them locally. But thank you for your attention to this. Hopefully, you'll be able to make a dent in Verizon's stick.
And thank you for your input. Appreciate it.
Right.
Okay. Mr. Snyder, let's move forward.
I'd like to call Mr. William F. Masters Jr. Rick, I'll call you Rick. I'll remind you that you're under oath, correct?
Correct.
Okay. In the interest of time in the late hour, can you review for the board the benefit of your qualification?
Yes, I have a Bachelor of Science degree in landscape architecture from Rutgers. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. I've been continuously licensed for the past 40 years. I previously testified before numerous planning boards, zoning boards of adjustment,
That's
and
fine.
land use boards.
We'll accept his credentials. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Masters, can you briefly describe what you did in preparation for your testimony this evening?
Yes, I reviewed the site plan drawings, the application, reviewed the comprehensive zone plan and zoning ordinance of the Township of Lakewood, reviewed the wireless telecommunications towers and antennas ordinance, the various supporting documentation submitted with the application, the review reports of the zoning board engineer dated December 10th and December 21st of 2020, visited the site, the surrounding land use, reviewed the Lakewood Township master plan adopted October 2017, and also reviewed the FAA determination of no hazard to air navigation for temporary structure.
Okay. Mr. Miller gave the board, I think, a reasonably comprehensive detail of the existing improvements. Would you like to supplement that from your perspective in terms of the property from a planning perspective?
Just to recap the testimony of the site engineer, the property is a 6-acre parcel. It has an existing bowling alley and bar on the premises, parking lot in the front, parking lot in the rear. The proposed site plan calls for a 24-foot by 24-foot ballast frame within a 28-foot, 8-inch square fenced area. So the total area of disturbance is 822 square feet. The installation would be accomplished without any disruption or disturbance to the existing site improvements, including without loss of any parking.
And the nature of the surrounding land uses, Mr. Masters, are significant in terms of traffic generation and issues associated with that, correct?
They are. The property is essentially situated at the juncture of New Jersey State Highway Route 70 and US Route 9, River Avenue, the major east-west land service road in the township of Lakewood, intersecting the major north-south land service road, as both designated on the circulation element of the Lakewood Township Master Plan.
Okay. As I mentioned in my opening remarks, and I asked Mr. Stern, under Lakewood's wireless ordinance, unless you are located either on municipal property or in the M1 zone, any wireless communication facility outside of those two properties would require a use variance. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And what additional variance relief, to the extent not subsumed within the D1 variance, is also required?
The applicant is also seeking side yard setback variances, both with regard to single side yard setback, as well as aggregate side yard setback. That would be the 3.45 foot side yard setback. I would note for the board that the adjoining property from which that side yard setback variance relief is sought is Camping World, which is a large recreational vehicle dealership. The thought here was to try to get the monopole situated as close to the westerly side of the property as opposed to the easterly side of the property, which is currently being developed for residential purposes. In addition to the setback variances, to the extent necessary, the application also requires a height variance from the 90-foot maximum height provision for a single user. As noted earlier, the ordinance, section 18-1012D1N of the wireless ordinance does provide for 150-foot towers for 3 carrier users. So we would have this facility designed such that it would be able to accommodate a co-location for 2 additional carriers in accordance with the height provision of the zoning ordinance. A separation distance requirement also set forth in the wireless ordinance, which requires a radial distance of 1,500 feet from the nearest residential structures, and the proposed installation would require a setback variance relative to that, 243.61 feet to the closest residential unit, and 182.84 feet from the proposed tower to the closest residential property. And that would be the Dutchtown Manor apartment complex.
Okay. One of the board members asked me to essentially summarily review the certain aspects of the statutory criteria. So let me, at the risk of being repetitive, go through that with you. Essentially, the applicant must satisfy the positive and negative criteria. And in the interest of time, essentially the use is not, as I indicated, an inherently beneficial use, but the standard is as follows. The applicant, and you correct me if I'm wrong, the applicant must establish that the use serves the general welfare because the site is particularly suitable for the proposed use. So in other words, it has to advance the general welfare because the site is particularly suitable for the proposed use. Is that your understanding of the positive criteria as part of the D1 variance? Is that correct?
Yes, that is my understanding.
And as a matter, without putting words in your mouth, certainly, was I correct in my response that by virtue of Verizon holding a license from the FCC, its use as a matter of law is one that serves the general welfare. Is that consistent with your understanding?
It is. In fact, Verizon Wireless holds numerous FCC licenses in multiple frequency bands. And as such, prior New Jersey Supreme Court decisions regarding wireless telecommunications have indicated that generally the issuance of an FCC license should suffice for a carrier to establish that the use serves the general welfare.
Okay, with that having been established, in your professional opinion, from a planning perspective, why is the proposed use particularly suitable for the subject property?
It's particularly suitable for numerous reasons. First, you heard comprehensive testimony earlier this evening from Mr. Stern regarding the need and establishing the fact that the subject property in its location satisfies the radio frequency coverage for Verizon Wireless for the identified area of Lakewood Township. So the subject site meets the radio frequency technical objective for Verizon Wireless. Secondly, we are in a non-residential zone district, the B5 Highway Development Zone. Again, I mentioned that we're at the intersection of two major land service highways in the roadways in the township. The subject site is a existing developed site, existing highway commercial use. It makes good sense to exploit existing site development infrastructure, including access and parking. And we're able to accomplish this without eliminating or disturbing any existing vegetation. The subject property size, 6 acres, significantly larger than the minimum lot area requirement in the B5 zone district. We have an existing, a substantial existing wooded buffer to the north end of the property, approximately the northerly third of the property, about 350 feet or so. It provides an ideal buffer area to the residential properties to the north. I would note that this is a temporary facility to address an immediate RF coverage issue resulting from the additional demand generated from the increased usage of wireless devices during the current pandemic. We have a willing landlord, and the property size is sufficient to accommodate co-location on the proposed tower. So for all those reasons, I would suggest to the board that the site, which is the subject of the application, is a site that's particularly suited for a wireless telecommunications facility.
That doesn't end our obligation. We must also satisfy the negative criteria. And in response to the inquiry of the board member, I indicated that while the Supreme Court has declined to make this use inherently beneficial, it has adopted for wireless what's called the Sika balancing test, which essentially is the same test that we use as if the site was inherently beneficial. So can you review concisely for the board what the Sika balancing test is and how it is applied here?
Yes, the first step in the 4-step Sika balancing test is the board should identify the public interest at stake. I would submit to the board that the public interest at stake here is significant. The provision of modern state-of-the-art wireless telecommunications is a use that benefits the public. The multiple FCC licenses held by Verizon Wireless support that premise. Second, the board should identify the detrimental effect that will ensue from the grant of the variance relief. Often the focus from a planning perspective on the detrimental effect issue is height. Here we have a situation though with the structure being designed to accommodate two additional users or carriers. It effectively complies with the provision in the wireless ordinance, which allows for 150-foot structures for multiple users. In some situations, the local board may reduce the detrimental effect by imposing reasonable conditions on the use. I would remind the board that we're suggesting here a temporary wireless telecommunications facility and obviously a time constraint imposed by the board on the lifespan of this particular structure would be a reasonable condition. Finally, the board should then weigh the positive and the negative criteria and determine whether on balance the grant of the variance relief would cause a substantial detriment to the public good. And I would suggest to the board, in considering the positive benefits of modern wireless telecommunications, that the benefits here far outweigh the detrimental impacts.
Okay, having addressed the use variance, let me just wrap up your testimony. In the interest of time, there's a side yard setback 3.5 feet, whereas, and we did correct this, there's a 50-foot side yard setback and a 100-foot aggregate setback. The location was specifically addressed, that the selection of the where on the property was specifically addressed by Mr. Miller. On that basis, do you believe the applicant has satisfied the criteria under C2?
Yes, I believe they have, both with regard to the need to locate the facility proximate to the existing utilities and in a fashion that avoids the removal of any existing parking or disruption to existing vegetation.
Two final questions. The tower height, while we're technically requesting a variance because we're at this point a single user, is it fair to assess the height variance in the context of the applicant's willingness to make it available at prevailing market rates and conditions to our competitors, and to structurally design it in a manner which would make the tower height compliant if there were additional users?
Absolutely. Co-location is not only a desired objective of the wireless telecommunications industry, but also of the land use planning community.
And lastly, with respect to the setback requirement for residential separation, I suspect that your analysis that you articulated relative to the D1 criteria would be equally applicable to substantiate the basis for the residential separation variance?
Yes, it would. The distances here, the 200 feet change to the apartment complex, 355 feet to the single-family dwellings on Melissa Court to the north. The distance coupled with the wooded buffer would mitigate any detrimental impact from the setback variance.
And certainly that on a long-term basis, given the 18-month or whatever the ultimate time period is for the installation, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Chairman, I have nothing further for our planner. I just wanted to make one other note that I neglected to mention. One of the requirements of your ordinance is that we make available the tower to our competitors, and we did submit a formal letter from Verizon Wireless indicating our ability to meet that requirement and that we'll make it available to our competitors.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions.
Do we need to open it to the public or?
Yes, I was going to get to that in a minute.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask my fellow board members if they had any further questions before I open to the public. Okay, seeing nobody from our public, from my fellow board members, I'm going to open to the public. Franny, did we get any letters about this?
No.
No. Anyone from the public want to say something? What do I need over here? Jason, can you please unmute? Or Amanda? Can we please
I
unmute
sent
the
a
public?
request for them to unmute. They don't seem to be unmuting themselves.
Okay. So I don't see anyone from the public being heard. I'm going to ask for a final motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion by
I'm willing to make a motion.
Moshe
approve.
made the motion to approve. Moshe Langley, what are you saying? You want a second, Moshe Inglis?
Moshe Langley also, number 2.
Okay, Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
The motion is for 18 months?
Mr. For 18 months?
Wait. There's 18 months and 10 only. Correct, Richard?
Right. I guess it would be 18 months though. Would be from the install, from the
install.
Yes, okay.
When it's operational.
Yeah, okay.
How long would that take until operational?
Andrew, I don't know if you're still, we'd have to,
They're in a rush, so I'm not really concerned.
Okay.
Yeah, 18 months from operational. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
And who made the motion? I know Mr. Langley said it.
Mr. Ingber made the motion, Mr. Langley second. Is that correct?
Yes, Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli,
Yes.
Mr. Langley, Mr. Naftali, Mr.
Yes.
Ribbiat,
Yes.
Mr. Ingber, Mr. Gross, and Mr.
Yes.
Halberstam.
Yes. Good night and good luck, everyone.
Thank you very much to all.
Yes, we're gonna move forward. We're gonna
Thank you.
discuss the app, the back to Miller.
4170, Jacob Miller, Guts Road.
Is he back? Is Jacob Miller back?
Well, Brian is here.
Oh, here as well.
Brian.
Okay, thank you. So let's move forward.
Guts Road to construct a single-family home, combined yard setback variance of 20 feet, where 25 is required.
Okay. Brian, be sworn in. Jerry, can you swear in Brian, please?
Mr. Flannery, you swear or affirm to tell the whole truth since you got it?
I do. Brian Flannery, Jackson, New Jersey, licensed professional engineer and professional planner. The application, as indicated, is for bulk variance relief for a single-family home on a 12,000 square foot lot. It's a unique shaped lot that's 78.22 feet in the front and 108.29 feet in the rear. The relief that we're requesting is for aggregate side yard setback of 20 feet. We're going to provide 10 feet on each side to each of the neighbors in accordance with the side setback for the ordinance. The aggregate side setback at the setback line is only 20. In the rear of the property, it exceeds 25. It's a unique shaped lot along Guds Road. It's a neighborhood that developed where there were existing homes. The existing homes have been replaced. The two developments, Oasis Court and Dual Court, were developments that built beautiful houses. And so with respect to the relief that we're requesting, the 20 feet combined rather than 25, and the building coverage of 34.54 instead of 30. If we go to the master plan of 2017, on page 2, on background information, it talks about all the growth we've had. It concludes on page 3. It's important, therefore, for Lakewood to plan for residential development to house its growing population. The vision statement says encourage development and redevelopment based on smart growth planning principles. This was a property that had a home on it years ago when I lived right around the corner. There was an application to put a school there. The neighbors in the area felt it would be more appropriate with homes. Mr. Miller has bought this. He has a house that's going to accommodate his family that he wants to put on that land. We go to the municipal land use law, NJAC 40:55D2 under the purpose of the act. A is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. It's my testimony that this does this. And G is to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreation, commercial, and industrial use. Again, my testimony that this does this. It provides a unique house to provide for the Miller family. We're requesting C2 variances. We need to show that it relates to a specific piece of property. I think this property located on Guds Road between the other two developments is certainly unique. The purposes of the municipal land use law would be advanced, which is I just read. The variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. And my testimony is based on the unique shape of the lot. Each of the adjoining lots get the 10 feet they anticipated. It has a broader feeling because the lot expands. The variance will not impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance. And I read from the master plan on how the benefits, and then the benefits have to outweigh the detriment. My testimony is there's virtually no detriment to this, and it provides a nice house for a growing family. Looking at the remainder of the report, the review comments are provide testimony in the architecture, and the plan is submitted. As you can see, it's a beautiful plan for a 5-bedroom house. That's my testimony.
Okay. I'll tell you honest truth. You guys knew this is exactly identical to the application we had last month, which is a 5-foot side yard setback. I was outvoted last time. It was approved last time around. Therefore, I'm not going to object to it this time around. Since we just gave the same thing last month, and we'll just move forward on my point of view. If anyone else has something to say.
Mr. Chairman, I have two different numbers, Jerry. I don't know if you do also. The lot coverage, one says 34.54 and one says 39.3.
Jerry Foote's letter says 34.54.
That's what I saw.
The notice says 39.3.
So maybe there's a typo.
That's good because you noticed worse than it really is going to be for you.
Yeah.
That's fine. I just thought you'd want to know which one is right.
And Mr. Flattery, assuming for the sake of the discussion that the application's approved, will your client agree that 1/3 of the front of the building will be improved with brick stucco or
yeah, and it's already shown on the plan that way. The applicant would agree to the normal zoning board requirements.
Thank you.
Okay, so I gave you my little speech that I said before.
Hey, was that a approve?
What?
Was that a motion to approve?
Let's get the
public. No, God forbid. It's not a motion to approve. It's just that last time we had a very similar around the corner from here. I was the lone no vote, so I'm not going to be the lone vote now again. Go ahead. What?
This is better. This is existing conditions. He's actually taking a bad condition. It's 1 foot off to the side and 2 feet off the rear yard setback, and actually placing the house in the center where it should be.
And the other thing that's different, Mr. Chairman, is last time there was property in the rear where the house could have been made longer. This applicant doesn't have that without using up his backyard.
Let's put it this way. We're not going to discuss the reasons. Let's move on. Okay.
Open to the public.
Open to the public. Anyone in the public want to say anything?
No.
Did you get any letters throughout the day for this? Seeing none. Amanda, is anyone muted on this that wants to be heard?
I sent a mute request to all the phone numbers. I haven't gotten an accepted one yet.
Okay. Fine.
When the chairman's ready, I am ready for a motion.
I'm ready. I'm ready. Move forward.
I make a motion to approve.
Motion
with the usual stipulations, Jerry.
Okay. Mike Schlenker made a motion to approve. Can I have a second? Can I have a second?
Second.
Well, everyone, wake up, everyone, guys. Avram Naftali seconded. Madam Secretary, roll call, please.
Mr. Gelli.
Yes.
Mr. Lankry. Mr. Lankry. Mr. Naftali.
Yes.
Mr. Viviak. Mr. Ingber.
Yes.
Ms. Wells, and Mr. Halberstam.
Yes. Good night and good luck, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
Moving forward, I'm going to go out of line right now. We have because of time, and if we still have some more time, we'll come back to county line. But I must get some.
If I may, can I?
You want to leave?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Take care. Good night. Just for the record, we're down to 6 members.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if you're not gonna have a seventh member, there's no point in me sticking around.
Oh, for county line.
Okay, 4171.
That's a good question.
That's why I asked earlier.
Right. You just,
It's late anyway. I don't think you should stick around. You can let him go.
yeah. What? But I must get Simcoe's Kala out. I'll take it out of ordinance. Out of the, you don't want to be heard on 6?
Adam,
Yes, I'm not counting on, he's not going forward with 6 members now.
4171.
Hold on, Moshe, are you back?
No, I'm logging off, but I would say even if we started county line right now, we'd have to continue it to the next meeting anyway. So then we're gonna have to break the whole thing up.
Well, I must make Dvar Kala.
You hear my application, but it would have persuaded you. But that's fine. If we could just table it to the next meeting with no further notice and a waiver of time.
Okay.
Adam, April 12th.
April 12th, 4/12. Okay, can I have a motion to table 4170? Can I have a motion to table 4171 county line development?
Free to waive time, Adam?
Motion.
Yes.
Yes.
Adam, can you please renotice? Just.
Why do I have to renotice?
No, just Coventry.
Just a moment. Just send a letter, although I don't think it's required, send a letter to the HOA. That way it is resolved. Just that one word.
It's worth your while, trust me.
I'll send a letter. I'll speak with Jerry and figure out. I would ask at this time that no further notice be necessary, but I'll work it out separately if I do have to renotice.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Adam.
Okay, take care, bye. Can I have a motion to table 4171 county line?
Motion.
Motion by Morty Gross, second by Mayor Gelli. Madam Secretary, roll call, please. With the waiver of time and no further notice.
Mr. Gelli.
Yes.
Mr. Langley.
Yes.
Mr. Naftali.
Yes.
Mr. Ribbiat. Mr. Left. Mr. Gross and Mr. Halberstam.
Yeah.
Okay, we have 6 members and we're going with 4172. Ms. Kala?
Yes.
Okay, 1798 West County Line Road, Block 2.05, Lot 8, R12 zone. Use variance requested to construct a 2-story building, including a warehouse, office space, and retail showroom.
Okay, who's around?
Who's around?
I
Miriam.
see you. Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. This application is for use variance approval to construct the corporate offices to house the Tiferes Devorah L'Kala organization. In case anyone is not familiar with Tiferes Devorah L'Kala, it's a not-for-profit corporation that assists needy brides with the basic essentials that they need to start up their home. The founders of this organization are actually in the room with me, Rabbi Hendler and Rabbi Yokansky, and we can certainly ask them to testify if you'd like. We know the hour is late, but they can certainly tell you a lot better than I can what they do. What?
We know what they do. Let's move on.
Go ahead, keep on going.
Okay, great. Due to the unique nature of what they do, there is no precise use in the Lakewood Township UDO that fits their particular use. This building will have offices for their roughly 3 employees. I think they have 2 now, but they anticipate growing to 3. It will have a warehouse to store their housewares and other items that they give out to the brides free of charge. And it'll have a showroom where the brides come with their mothers to select the items that they wish to acquire. So in a nutshell, it's a mixed-use building with 3 different uses, and that's the reason that we're here before this board seeking use variance approval. They will not be renting out any portion of this building to other tenants. This building will strictly be for the use of Tiferes Devorah L'Kala. I'm also sure that the board can also appreciate that due to the discrete nature of what they do, that they will never have more than 1 bride come at a time to the showroom to look at the items. With that, let me call on Brian Flannery to be sworn. I know we all want to get to sleep tonight, so let's get him to provide the testimony on the record.
Swear or affirm to tell the whole truth, so help you God.
I do. Flannery Jackson, New Jersey, licensed engineer, professional planner. As Miriam has indicated, this is a very unique use. It's a nonprofit. It's an inherently beneficial use. And also, as she's indicated, that there's no description of a use in the UDO or any ordinance that I've ever dealt with that would deal with this particular use. So it is going to be a single tenant. We're only asking for the use for this particular applicant. The board always worries about what if it gets sold and stuff like that. Nobody else would have approval to use it other than for this use. So looking at Terry's report, the properties in the R12 zone, we do need a use variance for this. We need a D1 variance. For that, we need to show the special reasons, the inherently beneficial nature of this certainly covers that. This particular site in the R12 zone, but on County Line Road, is uniquely suited for this. It provides the appropriate location, and it provides the privacy that's needed for a nonprofit of this type. If we look to the 2017 master plan, the vision statement says encourage development and redevelopment based on smart growth planning principles, such as a balanced mix of land uses, pedestrian friendly, transit oriented, and a sense of place. And it's my testimony that this does that. On page 10 of the same master plan, the community facilities, it says provide for a range of quality public services such as schools, libraries, recreational, public safety emergencies, and this fits into that public services. The municipal land use law, NJSA 40:55 D2, under the purpose of the act, is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in a state in a manner which will promote health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And Lakewood is lucky to have a use like this, and this is the appropriate location for that. So we're looking for a D1 variance because this use is not listed, but it's not listed in any zone, and this is an appropriate location for it. Certainly, it's my testimony that this variance relief can be granted without any substantial detriment to public good and will not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zoning ordinance. Terry's report also indicates that we need parking relief. And again, there's nothing that fits this. So we went by the office and all those other criteria and came up with 20 off-street parking spaces would be required. We fit 18 of them on the plan. One of them will probably be knocked out by the county because they have a requirement you can't have a parking space within 20 feet of a county road. So one of them is. They really shouldn't knock it out because it's on an exit. But we're asking for 17 parking spaces. It's not my opinion that the ordinance says we need 20, but that's the only number we can figure in, extrapolating from the UDO. As Miriam indicated, the most employees / volunteers we're going to have would be 4 to 6, and then we'd have one mother and daughter on the site. So we have plenty of parking. The site lays out very well, and it accommodates the use. I'm assuming the board did see the plan. The county required us to switch and it does make it that the one parking space on the western side of it now is at an exit rather than an entrance. So perhaps the county would allow us that. If not, we're requesting that the board grant us approval with the 17 parking spaces. The board really can look at this, that the bulk variances and the parking get subsumed by the use that's being granted here. So you're granting a use for this particular piece of property. Clearly, 8 parking spaces would be enough. We're providing 17. So my testimony is that the applicant is providing well more parking than is required. We're also asking for a variance for side setback of 10 feet where 15 feet is required. The 10-foot that we're proposing and the location we're proposing provides better visibility. It's better for everybody. It's my testimony. The board should grant that variance. Additionally, for a sign area variance, we're asking for 75 feet where the ordinance for this type of location says 65 feet maximum. And again, that additional 10 square feet is going to have no detriment, but it provides better visibility for the people coming to this facility. Design waiver is required for providing a 20-foot wide perimeter buffer. Due to the limited nature of the use of this site, the limited people coming and the privacy associated with it, we feel that what's provided complies with the intent of the ordinance with respect to buffering. The report also asks for testimony on the use, which Miriam gave a brief overview, but I'm sure the board is familiar with it. Item 2 asks if it's a single tenant or multiple, and as testified, it's single. Testimony on the deliveries, and we anticipated it would probably only be a monthly delivery with very limited traffic for the neighbors.
Mike, could you turn off mute?
The site circulation, as indicated, there would be one entrance and one exit to the divided county roadway at this point. So it's right in and right out only, and it provides adequate circulation and plenty of room for parking. The HVAC equipment will all be shielded, and we'll provide those details during resolution compliance. And the other items in the report would satisfy as part of resolution compliance. Board acts favorably.
Is that your testimony?
That is my testimony.
Okay, so I just have just 2 quick questions. What are the hours of operations in the warehouse? Let's remember it's in a residential neighborhood.
Miriam, do you know what the hours of operation are?
In the warehouse, not of the showroom, the warehouse.
Can we swear one of them in? Can we have one of them affirmed so they can answer?
Whatever you want.
Which one he wants to be affirmed? Okay. Can you, Mr. Dasty, can you affirm Chaim Shol-Yurkansky, please?
Only if he spells his last name.
Come closer to the.
Yurkansky.
Jurkan.
SKY.
Good enough.
It's an I at the end.
It's an I.
We can't see you. Come closer to the camera. We got to see your beautiful face.
Right.
Go there, switch.
I'm here.
All right.
Oh, is it really you?
Hey, we've seen enough. Can you move back?
It's really him.
It's really him. Would you believe it?
Yes.
Hey, was he affirmed yet?
No. Can we swear in Kam Shol? Jerry, you're on mute. Jerry, you're on mute.
You affirm to tell the whole truth?
Yes.
And give us your full name, spell your last, please.
First name Chaim, last name Jurkanski.
Thank you. So the question was, what are the hours of operation for the warehouse?
What are the, yeah.
The warehouse basically is just going to be a large storage area. The only time it's really going to be used is when we get deliveries in. And that's usually done during daylight hours, during daytime hours. The showroom itself is going to have 3-4 packages available.
Sorry, Rabbi, can we just say the warehouse 8 in the morning to 6 at night? How does that sound?
Yeah, 8 to 6? During the hours of 8 to 6?
I would say probably even 8 to 5, 9 to 4.
Fine. What I'm trying to avoid is not to have any noise or any making deliveries during the late hours of the night to the neighborhood over there. That's what we're trying to see. Okay?
Yep.
And I guess the showroom hours are going to be whenever they're going to be, whenever it is.
The showroom hours are usually done, each bride gets her own 2-3 hours, which is why the average. That could be anywhere from 9 a.m. to 8, 9, 10 p.m. depending.
Okay, but that doesn't make any noise. Okay.
No.
Fine. Okay. What else do I need to know that I don't know about this application?
That I need $2 million when we get the okay.
Okay, forget it. Guys, let's not put him into situation. Let's not give the okay for it. Okay?
Let's be honest.
No, let's not give him such grief and aggravation. So it might be worthwhile not to approve it. Okay. Brian.
Open.
Brian, the sign outside.
It's a good thing we're virtual or we take up a collection.
Fran, you're gonna be on top of the list.
Brian, the sign outside, the way where you want to put it, and the size you want to put it, and I had the questions for Terry as well. Will that hamper any of the site view, or going in and out of the driveway to the site, or any view for oncoming traffic? Remember, County Line Road over there is a little bit of a higher speed than usual.
No, and we need approval from the county, and the county looks at that also, but now that the exit driveway is to the west, there's a lot of separation between there and the sign, and certainly if you put an ASHTO site triangle on there, there's no impairment to the visibility.
No, okay. Terry, would you agree with Scholar and residents here tonight?
I'm sorry, Chairman, say it again, I don't understand.
I asked you, will you agree with the Scholar and residents? That there won't be invisible issues, huh?
Sure.
Sure, okay, done. Okay, anyone have any further questions?
Brian, quick question for you. Usually, before a hearing, I usually go and see the sites. But this weekend was a little bit busy, I didn't manage to do that. What's on lots 5, 10, and 11?
I believe those are single-family houses on Somali Drive.
Yes.
And obviously they got notices.
Yes. They got notice. They all got notice. Absolutely.
And they're not here tonight.
We don't know yet. We don't.
When the chairman opens it to the public.
We'll find
And
out.
what's on lot 501? That's an office building, I think.
Yes, it is. It's an office.
Yes.
Okay.
Schwab's office building. Anyone else?
Is there a variance requested for the sign?
Yes.
Yes, okay.
Yes, from 65 feet to 75 feet, and the location. Anyone else have any questions? Seeing none, we'll open to the public. Anyone from the public want to be heard? Let's unmute everyone. If there is, I don't see anyone, just one phone number, whoever that is, ending in 19.
And 48.
48.
And, 48. I don't know who they are. Okay,
I have no comments.
you have no comments. Okay.
That was my
No
point.
comments, we're gonna close to the public, and we're gonna ask for final comments and a motion.
Motion to approve.
Motion from Moshe Langley to approve. Can I
Wow,
have a second?
Shalanka says yes, I'll second.
You'll second, you sure?
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're $2 million for Kamshol.
What, forget about it.
They'll give one and I'll give one.
I thought that was part of the resolution.
What's the siding gonna be like?
You know, Moshe, it's being recorded.
What's the siding gonna be?
Sign?
Gary.
The siding?
Close.
I don't know.
Siding.
Naphtali.
Yes, yes.
Yes, Mr. Ribbiat.
1 second, Moshe said, wait. Mayor Gelly's asking what the siding's gonna be like. He wants to choose the
Whatever
color.
you like. No, he's talking about his side. He's having a main dish now.
Is it siding? Is it brick? Is it wood? What's it?
It's gonna be purple.
I didn't ask you what color.
What do you think it's gonna be? Vinyl siding, which is gonna be in 2 years from now, you're gonna see a lot of mold growing on it.
That's it, it's stucco.
Vinyl siding too. Okay?
As long as it looks nice.
As long as it looks nice. Okay.
That's right.
It has to be pretty.
It has to be pretty in the neighborhood. Okay,
Right.
make it pretty.
Mr.
The
Ribbiat.
colors
Purple. Rainbow colors. Make it the rainbow colors.
Design.
Okay.
No, Ribbiat.
Where we up to with the roll call? Madam Secretary, roll call.
Okay, I'm up to Mr. Gross.
Yes.
What color would you like?
The rainbows.
It's for weddings. I don't understand the question.
Okay.
Make it a white building. Mr. Houser.
I wanted them black.
No, what? A white building.
Okay. Mr. Yukonski, good night and good luck. Have fun. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Have a wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Good night. Moving
We
forward,
have
can I have a
resolutions.
Can I have what am I doing now?
We
Can I have
three
a motion,
resolutions.
the resolutions? What are the resolutions?
Well,
Newport Estates for extension.
Officer, for the Hampton one, only people who should vote on, to approve the resolution is those who voted in favor of the application. Right, so on the others, you can do unanimously if you wish.
okay, you want to do one at a time, Ed? 3966A Newport, that's the extension. Mr. Gelli.
Motion.
That's the motion.
I said yes.
Yes.
I need a motion on that one.
I make a motion.
Okay, that's Gelli, and a second?
Gelli, I'll second it.
Naftali, okay, too late. Mr. Gelli, Mr. Langley, Mr. Naftali, Mr. Ribbiat, Mr. Post, Mr. Okay, now, 68 is David Bernstein on Ataya Road. That's for the residential home with the side yard setbacks.
Second.
I need a who's there?
We need a first, hey.
All right, wait a minute, Gelli and Langley.
Okay.
Okay, and that's Mr. Gelli, Mr. Langley, Mr. Naftali, Mr. Ribbiat, Mr. Gross, and Mr. Halberstam. Now, 4115 is Hampton. Naftali is, you can't vote, and Gross can't vote.
Motion.
Motion by, who was that, Langley? And a second by Mr. Gelli. Okay, Mr. Gelli,
Yep.
Mr. Ribbiat, and Mr. Halberstam.
And Mr. Ingber.
No, he's not here.
Oh.
Now you notice.
I want to tell you on the first one, he said 3966A, Halverson and Gonzalez was one who voted. That's okay.
Yes, but they're not here either.
They're not here, yeah.
Okay, motion to pay bills.
Bills.
For Mr. Nasty, Mr. Terry, and me.
Motion.
Second. Third.
Raise.
5.
Okay,
Good night.
good night. April 12th.
That's all, folks.
Good night, all.
Good night, everybody.
Night all.
Good night, guys.